Excuse me, I'm taking a stretch. I've been sitting here since 9 o'clock. Oh, okay. All right. Okay, so let's switch back over to this. And let's see. Nothing really has changed except for maybe the people that tried to do lab 4. Like I said, I'm working on these labs myself. Ooh, let's let some people in. And there we go. So I'm working on the labs too because obviously we're now in 4.26. So I want to make sure, and my labs were done for 4.25s. So I'm just making sure that everything transfers. Now, I did leave you guys here a module with the stuff for the moon to be able to make the moon, the assets for it. And the video that corresponds with how to make the moon is this one right here. Now I have put a little parentheses around it, and I've said that this works for 4.18 through 4.25, and that the assets down here work. I tried to bring these assets into 4.26, and it was like, nah, I can't see them. And I was like, oh, come on. I was like, nope, can't see them. So I did find another way to bring these assets in. Now, a lot of this stuff, the reason why it says HE in capital letters right there for the first asset is because this comes from a thing, or from a module or a pack called the Horror Engine. For those that want to see that, let's go back to this. We'll minimize that, and we'll go back to Epic Games. And it is a free pack, so if you go to Marketplace, and you click in here to search for product, and you type in horror and just search for horror. The pack that I used is this one right here. So you can see it's called Horror Engine. It is a free pack, and that's where I'm getting the moon from. So for those people that are interested in, well, want to complete the lab and you're in 4.26. Now I think that only goes up to 4.26. So if we look here, let's click on it. And yeah, so this one goes from 4, oh, you can barely see that. Let me get my cat out of the way. 4.18 to 4.26. So if you're on 4.27, this may or may not work. But we're not actually opening up. See, this is one of those weird ones where you see how it says create a project. It doesn't say add to a project, right? So with this one, what they're doing is there's already a lot of stuff that's in play for the level and how the thing interacts with certain. There's a lot of blueprints that are already done. So instead of giving you the assets and adding it to a project where you don't have those blueprints already made, what it does is it says, no, we're just going to start a new project, and then you can open things up from there. You can go and play the base level, make a copy of it, and then build your own level after that. But there's so much stuff going on between the level, the character, all the objects in the room, that we can't just give you the content and have you just add it to your game. So it creates its own level. Now, when you do say create a project, it's obviously going to download it to your computer. And if I go back to where my projects are, documents, this is where I've been storing the projects that we're working on. There it is right there, test 4.26. But you can see the other project that it has created for me when I created the download. And right now it's Horror Engine. That's why the other one was called HE. We double click in there and we have a content folder. So if I go into that content folder, there is movies, which is not important. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for this one called Horror Engine. And if I go in there, you'll see that I have audio, blueprints, maps, materials, media. There's my meshes. And if I scroll down far enough, I believe the moon is in here somewhere. Particle system, meshes. If y'all see the moon, anything labeled moon before I do. There it is. So there's the moon asset, right? So from here, I could just grab this one particular asset and drag it into my content folder and drop it. But since I have all this other cool stuff in here that I might want to be able to use, like maybe a radio or a pistol or pistol bullets, so stuff that I might use in one of my projects, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to Horror Engine, I'm going to go back to content, and I want to copy. So I'm going to hit like right click, copy, because I don't want to remove it from this project. I want it to stay there in case I want to open up this project. And then from there, what I did was go back to my project, go to content, and then drop it into your content folder. And you'll see right there that I've already done it, so I don't need to do it again. But there's Horror Engine, and if I go in there, all those other folders are there. Now, what that did for me was when I go back into my project, and I go back to my content folder, right, down at the browser area, the content browser down here. If I go along, you should eventually, there it is, Horror Engine, double click. There is meshes, and if I scroll down far enough, I should see the moon. And then from there, I can bring this in just like any other asset. So I can just drag a moon, and since I've already got a moon up there, let's make it a double moon. Let's see, where did my moon asset go? Is that it? Okay, still got it selected. When it comes in kind of small. So I'm going to go to transform scale because it does come in as a static mesh, so it's not a geometry. So I'll just go here, and generally I got to make this thing about 30 to 50 times bigger. So let's hit 50. So we got a really big moon. And let's move this one just off of the horizon over the edge. And so we got the one moon up there and the closer moon there. So it's kind of like a reverse Tatooine. Instead of like double suns, it's got double moons. For anybody, come on, my nerds out there. Star Wars nerds. Gotcha. Okay.
Binary suns.
Binary suns, but binary moons. Yeah, we're on Mars, maybe. Let's see, we'll push play.
Binary sunset. I remember that scene in Star Wars.
Yep. There you go. So we got the big moon down there and a little moon up there. So easy enough to bring it in. Plus now, if I hit escape and I look in that folder, I got a lot of other cool stuff that I can start bringing into this project too. All right, so let's get back. So yeah, that was the only thing that I saw, and the only thing that should have changed on here is that the video, if you watch this video, yeah, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be for 4.28 to 4.25. If you're in 4.26, you'll do it the way I just showed you. Plus, you now get a lot of other stuff in there too. All right, other than that, we're going to continue on with group project 1. So what we did last time was we went over the proposal and the pitch, right? So we saw the documentation, what we're expected to do in the project. We know that we have the elevator pitch, which is going to be given by hopefully the group leader or the person who is the best suited for doing that in your group. I generally would think it would be the group leader because they would have the bird's eye view of the entire project. Then you are going to have the formal pitch, right? That formal pitch is going to be everybody in the group spending about 1 or 2 minutes talking about their part in the in what they anticipate and what they're going to try to go for. So the artist would talk about art, the programmer would talk about, you know, what types of things they're going to try to incorporate or what kind of key features might be there. And then the level, you know, whoever you set up for level designer, or it depends on how many people are in your group, obviously. And then you have the written proposal, and the written proposal is going to be, everybody's going to write, be anywhere from, if you've got 4 people in your group, about 2 pages a person, covering your subject matter. And then included in there, you will also have your SWOT analysis, which will be at the end, not part of the document, but as an appendix. You'll turn that information into me. And then also your the competitive analysis and the SWOT analysis. So that's, in the nutshell, the project, right? The project is due, just so that everybody knows, we'll go back to the syllabus. I could probably write due date on there somewhere. make it easier so people don't have to go looking for it. But we go to our schedule and we see that the project 1 is due on October 11th. Now we go back, if nothing changes, we go back to school face to face in a classroom October the 4th, right? So that'll be the week, the Monday after we get back, right? So we'll be able to meet and greet for a week. You'll be able to tell me how horrible it was online and how much better it's going to be in the class. And then when you come in the week after that, your first project's due, right? So team leader will be giving the elevator pitch. You guys will be doing your long format pitch or the formal proposal, and then you'll be turning into me the documentation in person, since we'll actually be there, not as a Word document. All right, so again, due date October the 11th. So we have some time. If we look at, that's one this week, another week, a whole nother week. So we have about a month. Let's see, how many days is that? 7, 14. Yeah, about 20 days. So not too bad. You have enough time to do it if you start working on it now. All right, so let's see. So we've done the video game industry PDF, right, where we went through and we discussed what was it? First party developer, second party developer, third party developer. What a publisher is, what a developer is. Then we went into a little bit more detail into the different people that would be there: the artist, the programmer, the level designs, and all that, and your testers. And then from there, we watched a couple of videos, which was you want to be a developer 1, you want to be a developer 2, which gave us points and tips and got us into the mood of what a developer is. And then we watched the producer 1. So the one we have not watched is pre-production, so we'll watch that one today. And you want to be a game designer. I don't think we watched that one. We also have a couple of other videos down here: the elevator pitch 1, the elevator pitch 2, and this one's actually really good, the 30 things I hate about your game pitch, which was done by a guy who worked for a publisher and pretty much did this all day. Well, I won't say all day, but definitely was the person most associated with listening to other people's ideas and saying yay or nay on whether they wanted to proceed with them. And then this one is more specific to what to do in a short pitch, how to put your ideas together and how to formulate everything. And then there's a couple of worksheets down here at the bottom that go along with that video. And then we also have examples of what some of these things are going to look like. So let's go and let's tackle the verbal part of it first. So I do have a PDF on that, and let's you know what? Let's do the game proposal, the documentation first, and then we'll go into the verbal pitch. I think that'll make more sense because you'll see the document and then we can talk about how you're going to talk about it. Okay, so we'll go to game proposal. And all right, so wrong keyboard. Or I guess we'll just do this. All right, so what is a game proposal? A game proposal is a combination of both visual and verbal presentation or sales pitch and the accompanying written documentation, or what I'd like to say, your really big brochure. It is normally constructed by a pre-production team that is looking for the financial support of an investor, right? So you're creating a document that says this is the product that we're going to make. We can't make it yet because we don't have all the money. And this is why we're coming to you, somebody with money and the ability to be able to get our game out there. And hopefully you think it's a good idea and you see how we're all going to make lots of money like Angry Birds, right? So the game proposal is a detailed business plan. So it's first we're going to do this, then we're going to do this, then we're going to incorporate this, but you're showing all the pieces. So if you were making I don't know, a car You would go, here's the engineering side of the car. This is how we did everything, how all the pieces are going to go together. This is how much metal we need. This is how much plastic we need. We need this many pieces of this kind of plastic, this many pieces of this kind of metal, and then somebody's going to build it all together for us. And then once we've got the product made, then this is how we're going to bring it to market. This is how we're going to introduce it to, and this is how many people we think will buy this kind of model based on our plans. So, same thing with a game. This is my game. This is how we're going to put it together. These are the people that are working on it. When all their pieces come together, it's going to look like this. And then these are the people that we think are going to be interested in playing this game. So that's our market. So, again, financial support. And that should always be part of the game proposal, is thinking about not just explaining your game, but also thinking about the money side of it. The game proposal is a detailed business plan on how you intend. I just want to make sure I was streaming, yes. The game proposal is a detailed business plan on how you intend to produce, market, or distribute and sell your game, right? So produce, how are we going to make it? Who is it going to go to? Who is our market? Who can we sell it to? How are we going to get it to them? And basically all that is marketing, right? As selling your product. So selling your game, right? So how are we going to make it? Who's going to buy it? How are we going to get it to them? And then cha-ching, right? If everything is done well. If done correctly, there you go. If done correctly, a properly executed game proposal could be the difference between you being able to produce your game or not. Because if somebody sees, because they're thinking money, they're always going to be thinking dollars. How many dollars is it going to take? And is this something that we're going to have to keep throwing dollars at, or can we put some money to it, and then there's such a good team that they actually used less money than we needed, which means we end up with more profit. And that's the way they're always going to be looking at it. So if you do your planning well in your game proposal, the likeliness of you being able to get somebody to say yes is bigger. You have a better chance. All right, so the written document. Since a game proposal's ultimate goal is to get money from someone, it can be seen as both a resume and a business plan. So not only are you selling the game, but you're also selling yourself, right? You're selling yourself as a good producer, or a good manager, or a good artist, or a good programmer. So why a resume? You are creating a visual portfolio showing proof of concept while seeking professional compensation for your skills or labor. So that you're looking for employment. Somebody's going to give you money in exchange for your skills. Resume. Why a business plan? You are outlining how you intend to create a product that can be sold at market. By providing examples, prototypes, concept art, source code, market research, to an investor, you are showing them that investing in your business will be profitable. The investor will want to know how much return on investment they should anticipate. This means that you have to sell them on how the game works and whether your game will make them money. The investor will be looking for reassurances that the game will make money. This is why most game proposals include some kind of competitive and risk analysis research, which is why we have the competitive analysis and the SWOT analysis. So, risk analysis, competitive analysis, or game for the game proposal document. Since creating a game for market can be seen as creating a business plan for a company, there are 3 essential documents that you need to create when you that will help you optimize and organize resources so that you can keep your game under budget and on schedule. Your risk analysis is going to be a research document. Your competitiveness analysis is also a research document, and the business plan is the game proposal. So 2 research documents, and then the actual, like the synthesis of those documents, plus your idea for your game. Seems like a lot in one document. That's why it's going to be several pages long, right? All right, so risk analysis. or SWOT analysis. A SWOT analysis is an incredibly simple yet very powerful tool that will help you develop business strategies, whether you're developing a startup or guiding an existing company. So whether you're starting a company or whether you already have a company, it's always a good idea once a year. I take an inventory here in my studio and I figure out what I have, what can I do, what are the capabilities, how do I have things set up, and how can I best utilize those things to help me make money at my studio, right? So I do a SWOT analysis once a year, or when things change, right? Let's say, I win a lottery ticket, not the big one, but let's say I get a scratch off and I get $20,000, right? And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So where can I stick that? And then instead of just rushing out and like making a rushed purchase just because I've got $20,000 and it's burning a hole in my pocket, I might look at my studio and go, what can I upgrade? What would look nicer? Does it have to be aesthetic? Are there pieces of equipment that I can buy that'll help my capability? Should I do infrastructure? Should I add more power to the studio? Should I get a better internet? Because with that kind of money, I could actually get somebody to come out here and maybe give me a better internet quality, or maybe I'll invest a portion of that into a year's worth of better internet and try to turn that into, and I mean better internet, I mean, going from increasing your bits per second up and down, so then that way you can actually send more information, or you've got a bigger tap on the internet, but that costs more money, right? So think about different things that I could do, what I need, what's going to help me, and then and go from there. So what is a SWOT? A SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Strengths and weaknesses are things that are internal to your company, things that you have some kind of control over, and things that you can change. So an example could include someone that's on your team, your patents or intellectual properties, or your location, right? So if I'm doing it for myself, right, if I'm doing a SWOT analysis for myself, I look around and I go, okay, well, I've got a X number of dollar audio studio that's already available here. I have microphones, I have recording equipment, I have video editing equipment, I have audio DAWs, I have game producing equipment, I have OBS equipment. So all those things would be strengths, things that I have control over that give me some kind of advantage over other people. So if you were going to make a game and you were on a team, and I'm going to make a game and I'm on a team, well, then my team all of a sudden benefits from the fact that, yeah, I could spend a couple of hours in here with what's in my brain and the stuff that's in front of me and make a whole bunch of really cool sound effects that another team might not be able to do, or another business might not be able to do, right? So those would be strengths. Now, a weakness would be something that would be the opposite of that. And I think we'll get more into detail here in a minute. Let me just go over opportunities and threats, and I think in the next slide I actually go more into detail into, let's see. Nope. Okay, so I'll talk about it now. So a weakness. Up until last year, one of my weaknesses was, as a company, was that I was not, I was not, what do they call it, incorporated. So now I have a business license. I have my LLC. So I actually am a business entity that is separate from myself as a person. So if something goes bad with my business, I'm only liable up to the amount of money that I've put into my business, as opposed to them coming after my car, my house, my things like that. So this would be like the difference between an entrepreneurship and a corporation, right? So what I basically am saying is that my weakness up until about a year ago was the fact that I was not incorporated. Now that I'm incorporated, that actually goes into my strengths column, right? Now I did have to pay money for that. I went through, what are these people online? I'll have to go back and look at my documents. But, you know what? They're sitting right over here. I'll just take a quick look. Where are these people? Oh, those are my taxes. LegalZoom. Duh. Okay, so I went through LegalZoom, and going through LegalZoom, and in Texas, it cost about, I think it was like $800 to get just the base LLC done and set myself up and start paying taxes, I guess. I need to make more money. That's a weakness. But that would have been a weakness. Let me see. I guess a weakness right now is that I'm not working on any strong projects. I can't, it's hard. I don't know if thinking about weaknesses is. I think it's easier to think about strengths because you can look around and you can say this is an advantage, this is an advantage, this is an advantage, this is an advantage. Sometimes it's a little harder to look to find weaknesses. I could be a better programmer. That's definitely a big weakness. I really like level design and I like putting things together, and I really like, let's say, Unreal Engine. But if somebody came to me and they were working in a project, let's say in another game engine, I might not be as strong. So that would definitely be a weakness. I can say that definitely has stopped me from getting a job. I think I told y'all this story when I was working for ADV Films. They had me work on a project. One of the video editors had just recently gotten, I don't know, I assume it was fired, and they wanted me to take over his spot, but I wasn't familiar with Composer 7, which was the software they were using. I knew the other two software, so I could have probably have figured it out, but they needed somebody that like could take over the project and finish things, not somebody that was there to like learn as they go. So for me at that moment, that would have been a weakness. Here, if I'm talking about making a company out of producing a video game, then definitely me not having better programming skill or knowing another programming language would be a weakness. Opportunities and threats. So opportunity and threats are things that are external from yourself, right? So things that are going on outside your company in the larger market. You could take advantage of opportunities, and so the thing is that you want to take advantage of opportunities and you want to protect yourself against threats. And a large part of this is these are things that are market forces, things that you have no control over. Tomorrow somebody creates a TikTok video which then like throws water on an idea that you were having, and then all of a sudden everybody thinks that idea is a terrible idea, and you couldn't control that because you couldn't control the people on social media as much as you could control anybody that's sitting around you, right? So, social media could be both an opportunity and a threat. So things could be seen both ways. You could use social media to promote a product, to do to X, Y, and Z, but then that same social media, maybe something happens with one of your products, somebody gets on a viral video, that person's a member on your team, all of a sudden that brings attention to your project that they were working on. Some people will say bad media is still good media, but with today's cancel culture and the way things are going, that's probably a bad thing, right? Because now everybody's going to downvote and give you like the thumbs down thing, and now you're just pigeonholed. You're like a pariah, and nobody wants. So social media could be both an opportunity and a threat. Other things that could be seen as both could be other competitors, right? So other teams. Maybe you're developing Angry Birds and somebody beats you to the punch by a month. They create a game that's called Angry Pigs, and it works, and they're done, and it's up. And then when you bring your product to market, you couldn't control your competitor, and now it looks like you have a copycat project that's sort of like their project, and nobody likes that because, well, I'm not saying that nobody likes it. There might be some people that don't like pigs and like birds, but you get the point. Now you're not the first one that brought that kind of a game out, so you're not seen as the because there's lots of games now that are like Angry Birds. People will play them, but there was a time when that thing was done. I mean, they made, I think, 2 movies, so it was like a big product, a big brand. Anyways, the prices of raw materials and the trends of customers, right? And we kind of talked about that with the way social media might turn on you or turn on an idea that you had. Maybe somebody, you're creating a zombie game, and somebody comes out on social media and says zombies are stupid, and they've got 70 million followers, and now 70 million people think zombies are stupid a week prior to you bringing your game out. So anyways, so anything can happen. Let's see. A SWOT analysis organizes your top strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats into an organized list and is usually presented in a simple 2x2 grid. So this is actually the most that you would have to do. So when you turn in that SWOT analysis, I want this to be every person in the group, right? Every person should sit down and look at your strengths, your weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in you as a person going into the gaming industry. Like myself, I would fill this out as strengths, audio studio, strengths, instructor, lots of, I could list all the software that I know how to use. I could list the equipment that's in my studio. All that could go under strength. Weaknesses, my not having been incorporated could have gone into that. That's now into a strength column. But a weakness might be don't know Unity as well as I should. Don't know 3D software maybe as good as I should. And what this does is it lets me know, hey, instead of, well, anyways, we'll get to that. So an opportunity there might be things like I could use my studio to develop, I could actually, if I start making games and I start using my studio to record audio for my games and make music for my games, other people might see that and then they might come to me to do that kind of work for them. So instead of just, and I might be the only person in Houston that might be able to do that kind of work, that understands gaming enough and how games are made, that I could see that as a way to make money or another opportunity. Be an audio studio for people that are creating video games. A threat might be somebody else that knows how to do the same thing I do, right? There might be a Martin twin out there somewhere that also has a studio that also knows or knows better how to make video games than I do, and that would be a threat. So another audio studio could be possibly viewed as a threat. Definitely that, even if they don't understand video games, somebody from another company could go to another studio and say, hey, you got a microphone? Yes. Do you know how to record dialogue? Yes. Okay, all we need are the files, give them to us as waves, and bring that, and they could use that studio instead of using mine. So definitely that would be a threat. Another threat that maybe audio equipment changes. Maybe there's, like right now, I don't even have a physical mixer in this place. I do, but I mean, I have like DJ mixers and there's a couple of mixers, but the mixer for my main working station is all touchscreens now. So that's something that changed in the market. That's something that's a new thing. It could be seen as an opportunity. I took advantage of it and I'm using it. But there might be other people that weren't able to take advantage of it. I mean, each one of the touchscreens are about $1,000 a piece, right? So if you have two, that's $2,000 that somebody else could have spent on a computer beefing up that part of their system instead of doing this. They're still using physical mixers. Their mixer wears out over time. Mine doesn't because it's a touchscreen. So, I could see that as a threat. They could view that as a threat, me having equipment that's more futuristic. I don't want to say more futuristic, just definitely has less moving parts. So anyways, so you can see how strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Now the opportunities and threats, we don't know that well. I mean, we would have to do an analysis of the game industry to figure out where we would, like myself, if I want to see if me owning a studio, an audio studio, is an opportunity, I want to see how many other studios are out there. Maybe I make a list of the 10 top studios, figure out what their rates are, call them and say, hey, I've got a project that I'm working on. We want to bring in a vocal singer. We're working with this kind of software. How much do you charge me for an hour, for 2 hours, for whatever? And I do research that way. Then what I can do is I can figure out what other people in the city are charging for doing that kind of work, and then tag on $50 extra to my hourly or to my thing for the same thing, saying, hey, they're just audio studios, but I do it for video games. So if you guys want somebody that knows video games and has an audio studio, then I've turned that into an opportunity. So there's some research that's going to come into this, which is what the competitive analysis is that we'll talk about here in just a second. Oh, there's competitive analysis. A competitive analysis is the analysis of your competitor and how your business compares, right? What do they got? What can they do? You know, how much horsepower does their car have? How fast does their car go? How low is it to the ground? How much resistance does the car have? All those things I'm comparing against, let's say, my car to figure out if my car is going to win or not. In a business, you would compare other things, right? So competitive analysis evaluates the strengths and the weaknesses of your competition. So that means you have to figure out what else is out there. By reviewing this, you can begin to formulate how your company can take advantage of market conditions and avoid barriers to market entry. So, advantage of market conditions. What does that mean? Well, let's say now all you need is one computer, and if you have enough space on that computer and enough power on that computer, you could make a level for a game, right? It used to be that you needed way more equipment. It used to be that I always tell the story. My first USB stick was purchased in 2004, so what is that? Over 20 years ago, or almost 20 years ago, 2004. It was 128 megabytes, and it cost me $80. So if you can imagine, if I tried to make a game in 2004, the amount of computing power that I would need to be able to create that game and how much that computing power would cost if one USB stick cost $80 for 128 megabytes. I have pictures or videos on my phone that are bigger than that, right? And $80. So things changed in the market that made it possible for me to actually be able to get into the video game market, right? I have a computer big enough, powerful enough. I can download the software that I need to run the game creating software on, and now I can make a video game. Whereas 20 years ago, that the $2,000 computer that I'm using right now to make games would have cost me $20,000 back then. And that would have barred me from being able to get into making video games, which it did. I didn't get into video games until much, much later, at least making them. So by looking at the conditions that are available in the market, you can figure out whether you have a product that will sell and whether the advantages in your company or your group will allow you to be able to make that possible. So a competitive analysis generally helps brands monitor how competitors are executing tactics like marketing, pricing, and distribution. This allows the business to take advantage of opportunities where they are uniquely able to provide a solution, product, or service for less money than other people. Or maybe more money if you have a superior product. Because you've done your research, you know that your product is better. You can then say, my product does X, and because of that, you'll pay $1 extra for it. So, how are we going to do a competitive analysis? So, what I want you to do as a group, if you have 4 members, if you have 3 members, is that everybody should pick 2 video game companies. And what you're looking for are data points, places of data that you can compare what you're doing with what they're doing, right? So a data point might be how long has their company been around. Another data point might be how many people are in there work for that company. How many games have they created? How long did it take them to make a game? How much did they sell their game for when it finally came out? Did they do a promo? Did they not do a promo? So what you're doing is you're looking for these data points that will then allow you to be able to figure out whether you have what's out there in the market, right? So what are the threats and the opportunities, and then how would you fit into that market? How will you be able to compete in that market? So this would be creating a spreadsheet and then putting those questions into that spreadsheet and then everybody will do research on 2 companies and fix out those points. So the next time you guys meet as a group, right, you're going to go back to this PDF and you're going to look at it and you're going to, okay, Martin wants us to find 8 to 10 or 2 per person. Then we need to ask questions like what he just said. How much was their game? How long have they been a company? How many people are in their company? How many I said how many games? How long did it take them to bring between games? How much are they charging for it? Those kind of points. And then you'll put that into a spreadsheet, and then everybody will do research on those companies, and then they'll come back with their I was able to find this, I was able to find that point, I was able to find this point, and then that sort of gives you an idea of like, oh, okay, well, this is, most companies takes them about, we researched companies that were from 2 people to 20 people. We found about 8. We find that those people are those companies are able to bring a product out maybe once a year, once every 2 years. So that then gives us a bubble of, okay, it should take us about 1 to 2 years for us to develop something similar. So if it's taking us longer, we know that we have a problem, or that's now a disadvantage or a weakness as opposed to a strength. If we feel that we could do it sooner, then that would be seen as an advantage. But that's coming from our competitive analysis, right? So from there, the other thing we would do is we would identify primary, secondary, and tertiary competitors. So a primary competitor, we'll get into that in a minute, collect necessary data to fill in the spreadsheet's data points, right? So the questions that we asked up here, and then draw conclusions from that data, market opportunities or barrier to market entry. So let's see. Okay, so here are like a list of data points, like a list of questions that you could use. You can add more questions, obviously. Who is their target customers? Are they building games for kids aged 2 to 10, or does their game is more of like a melee game with fighting, so you might go teen to adult? Or maybe there's profanity in the game, and now you have to give it a PG, like a rated R. There's definitely, I think there's a scale somewhere in games that rates the game based on like things that are happening inside the game. So then that way, parents, when they buy the game, know that they're not buying a game with like expletives or lots of blood or guts that give their kid nightmares because their kid's 4, right? You probably don't want a 4-year-old playing Resident Evil. Just so there are different target markets, right? So you could based on the game, you could say all ages, ages this to that, ages here from there, and you can infer some of that information. So you may not be able to they might not have a chart. You go to their webpage and you look up the company and you look at their game, and it doesn't say that information, but you can infer it. What market share do they currently own? Are they a new company? Is it if Nintendo comes out with a game, you can expect a quarter of the people out there to play video games that might be interested in that game. So they would hold a larger market share than, let's say, some other game, some lesser known manufacturer. Now the other thing would also be like within a specific genre. So maybe it's horror game, and within the horror game, like action adventure, horror, hacker, slasher, there are certain game franchises or video games that would fit in, and you could say, if asked, if you ask 100 people, 30% of the people would know this game, 50% of the people would know that game or have played it, and then that would give that certain game a market share, right? So many people will play it, and thus if they make another title in that series, you have more people that are most likely going to watch it or play it. What's their main differentiator or unique value add-on? So what makes their game unique? What is their key feature? What are they doing in their game that makes their game different, and why do people play that game? Maybe a list of key features, benefits, usually highlights in sales materials. So when you pick up a game and you pick up the DVD for a game and you flip it over to the back side, there usually be like a list of things that's in that game that would make that game cool or fun to play. And those are generally going to be your key features. So let's say we're playing a game like Portal, the portal gun, physics, all that would be key feature. Um, I wish they had more levels. I think that game went too fast. I feel like I've finished that game in like an hour, hour and a half, and then it was just making holes and watching my dude fall. Let me see. Price point, seeing that would be a disadvantage. You could use that. You could look at that game and go, well, I know it's a short game. I know people wish that game was longer. So if we're going to make a game that's similar to that, the reason why our version of Portal is going to be better is because there's 100 levels versus, the 20-minute game that most people finished in about an hour. Price point for products, even across different markets. So price points. When this game comes out, how much do they go for? So you look at a high-level, complex game, like let's say, I don't know, let's say Halo, right? Where you've got multiple player, there's online functions, there's different platforms that it's on, and you look at all that and you say, wow, they're selling that game for $100, $50, $150, whatever the pre-sale plus after the thing comes out, plus what are they doing? Are they doing in-app purchases? How much are their in-app purchases? Does that affect the price of the video game? Like if you would have looked at that game 10 years ago or when it first came out, they wanted this much for it, and now the asking price is lower, but you have to spend $100 to get anywhere in the game. So yeah, it's $40 where maybe 10 years ago it was $50, but they're making $100 inside the game, right? So how have those things changed? The fact that most people have a credit card on account with their game provider platform, so they can do in-app purchases. Let's see, how do they approach shipping and distribution? Is their game only available on certain platforms? Is it only available online? Can you play it in a mobile fashion? Is there a version of it that's available? So how many different places are you going to be able to play this game? And how are they getting that to you? Do you have to go to GameStop to buy it? Can you buy it online? And you can see just from this list of questions, there's hundreds of questions that I could ask that we could definitely look online. And you go, well, they're not putting out information and data for. No, you can infer a lot of this stuff from just looking stuff up online. Human assets. Are there any recognized people in their field or celebrities? For example, maybe you have a video game, and in the video game they've used the likeness of so and so. So, like right now, I'm playing a Star Wars game. That Star Wars game has Luke and Leia and C-3PO, and all those are known likenesses. A lot of those voice actors they've copied the dialogue straight out of movies, or they've had the voice actors come in and actually voice certain parts. So that raises value in the game, and that gives the game selling points, things like that. So before we move on, how are we going to do this kind of research? Where do we go find companies that are not Nintendo or PlayStation or Sony or whatever, right? So let me hit escape. Oops, wrong keyboard. Hit escape here. And let me minimize that. Okay. So all of us have access to Epic Games Launcher, right? So let's open up Epic Games Launcher. Now, if I go to home and I go back, I believe, to the store. Let's see. There we go. Let's see. There's a game, there's a game, there's a game, there's a game. There's a bunch of games. That's the Escapist. I think that's, there's a game, $26, $35. Let's see, browse. We can go by genre. So let's say we were going to do, horror games. There's horror. Okay. Interesting. What's this? $14. Let's click on that one. Okay, so yeah, they have a little interactive, hidden fields. Let's see. This is a single player game, which would be more or less the kind of game we would be playing, right? So how many games are we looking out there that are multiplayer, single player? Definitely fits the genre that we're playing. We show more. Let's see. Where is their company? There it is. Hidden Fields. That's the name of the developer, right? And there they have their publisher. Interesting. So let's pause that. Hidden Fields. Can we click on that? No, we can't. But let's go internet, new page. And this was called Mundan. Ugh, wrong keyboard. Down. And there's game. What's the name of this company? Hidden Fields. There we go. So we'll just go straight to their website. Mundan. Game Insider. Escapist Magazine. Let's click on that one. There we go. And Toby, stop. Just making weird noises. All right. Let's see. They have a Twitter page. So if we're collecting data points, like how many social medias are they on? That might be an interesting point right there. We'll right click. Let's go open that page. There is a web page for their game. We'll go ahead and open that page. And it looks like up here they have let's see if we can just go straight to their page here. Whoa. I click open in a new tab. Okay, there we go. So they're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. They do have a website. If we're looking at a data point, there's a website. Let's see. Some hand-drawn artwork. So this is sort of like what we're doing, right? They created, let's see. This is kind of cool. This is sort of like what we're doing, right? With except this isn't their business plan. This is just an art book. But stuff that could have gone into their game proposal. Let's see if we have information on these people. Interactive experience about the game. So I think that's the page we were on. Let's go to development blog. Dead page. So they are rated. You can see their rating. That would be another data point we could add. I wish we had more information about like how many people were on their team, or let's see. Available now. Maybe we watch the
one or two developers solely because it's an itch.io site.
Basically, okay.
That means like the Indy side of things.
Yeah, if we can't actually find out how many people are on their team, then we can't actually input that as a data point. So I would maybe in watching the video they might have more information about, maybe this is an artist and he's working with another team or something to help him develop. I don't know. Who knows? But that's what I'm saying is here's somebody who's got a game that you can purchase right now for $15 that is an independent developer, and we could assume this is probably a small studio. All right, so let's see. What other games do we have? Let's go back. There's their Twitter page. There might be some information here. Hidden Fields, Interactive. Let's see. Sign in, cancel. Excuse me. Show more.
this person's Twitter is like they worked on this for 7 years.
Okay. Well, there you go. See?
That's tough. Yeah, it's a data point though.
That's a data point. How long did it take one person to make a video game? 7 years. Let's see. Let's go back
They're
to.
trying Sobo Games. Like they're the ones who made like a Plague Tale. They're owned by Microsoft. Sobo Studios and stuff.
Oh, that's right. We weren't here. We were here. Okay. Yeah. I mean, so let's go back to the browser. So that was one game, right? Let's go and let's see. That's 40. That's $50. Okay. Here's one that's about $20. Yes, I'm over 18. Okay. So that's a data point. Their developer, their publisher, when the game came to market, what platform it's available, only Windows. Let's see. It's also an indie game. You have information here about, I suppose, the games. Other people that have rated the game. These are good data points too. Windows, what their system works on. Let's see. So, developer is Blubber Team SA. Okay. Control C to copy. Let's go back to the internet. Control V to paste. Okay, this one looks more promising. That's actually on Steam. Let's see if we can get maybe more information. This is called Layers of Fear 2.
Their website is really good. This is perfect.
There we go. Fantastic. So they're telling you what their game is available on, how to buy it, what the name of the game is, about us. Boom. There's your developer team. You know how many people worked on it. You can guess relative ages. Most people are within whatever age. Let's see. They're on Facebook, Twitter. They have YouTube videos. So more data points. They're in Europe. Careers. There you go. Here's all the people that are part of the company, or at least the heads of whatever departments. Let's go to art, HR. Wow, they're big enough to have an HR. Guess somebody's got to make sure all the checks don't bounce. Design, quality. So there's your tester, your main tester. Your programmings, people that are working on animation, and I assume all of them. Ooh, they even show you where they are. Let's see where they are. Keep backing up, keep backing up. They're in Poland. Okay, so you got a Polish team. Making horror video games. They have I guess we just looked at jobs. Go back to home. Oh, company website. Looks like they've made a couple of titles. Ooh, Blair Witch is a big name, right? That's a. Let's see. Then you can figure out when these games came out, and decide, well, between this game and this game, maybe they were took them about 2 years to press something. So you can say a European team making horror games takes. They've looked like they had about 40 people in their crew. This size company can come up with this many video games, and this is what their games look like. All right, let's look one more. So, and this is literally the first two that I've clicked on. Now I've skipped over a couple of them. There's another. I was looking at the price. Let's see. What's Demon Tilt? there's the mundane thing again. There's that same. There's Blubber Team, so we can see that they've actually got a couple of projects out. Maybe they're producing multiple games at the same time. Who knows? We won't know until we do that research and figure out. Going to their pages, going to their social medias, figuring out when their games came out. Hello Neighbor. That looks interesting. All right.
It's a great game.
Yeah, it has a sequel.
Does it? Okay. So, horror stealth Indy. It's a single player game, sort of like a game we could produce. The developer is named Dynamic Pixels. Let's click on there. They can follow.
They
Oh,
won an award that time. They won the Game Awards.
They've won several awards, yeah.
Yeah, I remember them.
okay. See, there you go. So here's some notoriety. You could put those awards as different things, as different data points. This game came out 2007. It's only available on Windows. We'll right click here. Control C on the right keyboard and go back to the internet. Control V. Pretty sure that's it. So they do have a web page. Interesting graphics. Let's see. Russian? Is that the Russian flag or the French flag? Because it looks like it has European and then
Yeah, that's French.
French. No, it looks. Are you sure? Not Russian?
Sure.
If the white is in the
Oh
middle,
yeah,
that means
maybe I'm wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, that looks like Russian writing. I know. I used to be married to a half Russian.
one of my uncles used to study in Russia.
Oh, well. Let's go back to the British side. Let's see. Do these people have their social media stuff? Dynamic pixels. Wait. Okay, so here you go. People in their group. Game designer, lead artist, programmer, tester, and like programmer turned out that he is the director. Oh, okay. So this is probably the lead. I guess they all wrote like a small thing around them. Let me see. None of this stuff is clickable. Let me see. Is it true? Dynamic pixels. I guess it's just that. So, we dead-ended here, but, we could, we definitely figured out they've got maybe a small crew, maybe about 5 or 6. They did say leads, so you would assume that there would be other people, maybe different artists that would be working. There's probably lead also, people there. But definitely that it's easy to do research. You can go online, and we didn't go beyond what was in Epic Games, right? So this could be other things too. You could go to Steam, do the same kind of research. Go through Steam, find people, figure out, let's see what their Facebook looks like. Cancel and go back. Oh, okay. Tried to open up Edge, Microsoft Edge. Anyways, so the research easy enough. Doing an analysis. If you've got 4 people in your team, everybody does two companies, 2 properties, 2 things. You figure out data points that you guys could, well, they're doing a sale. It ends blah blah blah. Whatever. All the different data points. You could also start looking at publishers. So for those who have game ideas, that once you start developing them, you could start making a list of these people, figuring out who the publishers are, how they could be bringing your stuff to market, different platforms that they're putting you on, and what they would actually be doing by going to their pages and figuring out what they do. So market research, right? All right, let's go back to our PowerPoint. Oops, where's our PowerPoint? Okay, so we can see how we can find all this information, and it's actually quite easy to find. All you have to do is go find. It looks like games that are under $20. Definitely not the $50 games, because those would probably be bigger teams. But $10 games, $9 games, $8 games, $5 games. Look for low price games. Those are usually going to be the smaller independents. There's a reason why they're charging that amount of money, because it's a short game, or it doesn't take that long to beat, or it's a fun experience for a day or two, and there goes your $8, right? Where if you pay $100 for Call of Duty or whatever, and you got the special guns and the preamp this and all the other stuff, you might play that game for a month before it gets old, before you've gone through all the features, and that's why you're paying more money for it, because you're going to get more gameplay out of it. So generally, lower dollar games will be the indies. And then we just learned stuff about the market, didn't we? Indies are lower priced games. Let's see, unless they've won a bunch of awards, and then maybe they can charge more money for their next project. And that's probably why you'd want to do that if you're an indie. All right, so game proposal document. So if we're looking at the game proposal, so what we've looked at so far were the two research documents, right, that we were talking about. Let me see what time it is. It's 1 o'clock. Good. We've got plenty of time. Yep. Okay, so if we're looking at the game document and we had to break it down into its sections, right, you'd be doing an introduction, then you'd be doing a section on game dynamics, your key features, your concept art, and then your team members, right? So if I'm in a group and my group has 4 members, and I look at something like this, I go, introduction, gameplay mechanics, that might be our level designer. Key feature, that might be our programmer. Concept art, that would probably be our artist. And then me as the team leader would probably do the introduction and the team members, because I know who all the people in my group are. You know, they can send me an image of themselves or what they want their icon to be inside. Sort of like what we saw on that one website, right, where everybody was sort of like a sketched in character, but they had the names of whatever those people were, what they were going to do underneath them. So it doesn't have to be an actual picture of yourself. It could be whatever you want it to be, as long as it looked cool and it seemed part of what you were, part of the game. Sort of like the Neighbors game had sort of like what looked like kids and chalkboard, and everything was done like a little low poly, and everything, all the materials had that sort of same look to them. So we've gotten through the 2 research documents. Now we're talking about the actual game proposal, the document that you're going to create and hand to me on the 11th after doing your verbal pitch. So introduction, game mechanics, key feature, concept art, team. So I've labeled these, so you see how that's blue up there. That corresponds with the blue that's here. And this is the introduction section. So things that I should see as part of your introduction, right? So the name of your game. That sounds weird, but yeah, the game title, right? What's the name of the game? I think that's like a old school 70s like jump rope thing. Anyways, the name of your game, the log line. We've talked about this, right? Nobody can hear you scream in space. We went through a couple of log lines the other days for movies. You could do the same thing as you're doing your research. Maybe this is one of your data points, right? What are the game's log lines? Based, if we're a horror game and everybody researched 10 games and one of the data points is the log line, when you bring back, maybe not everybody, or maybe not every game had a log line, but let's say more than half of them did, and we can see where they're going with it. Are they long things? Are they short things? Are they very graphic? What are they saying? And then we can make our own log line based on what we see other people have done, based on the research that we did by looking up other games. So game genre, horror, slasher, and we saw that when we saw the research, right? That was right in. It would say horror, indie, or it would say horror, stealth, or it would say something, and you would see that game genre there. From there, the target audience. A lot of this we can infer and I keep going back to the horror thing because it's so easy to pick out. It's so different from what other types of games would be. But people that like if it's stealth, we could say the people that like stealth games. If it's horror, we're hitting that genre also, so we could hit that as a target audience. We could put an age group on this. We could put a gender on this. We could put regional areas where this might do well. You know, maybe this game sells better in Europe than it sells in America. Maybe it sells better in Japan than it does in China. Maybe it's, any information that you can get off those data points. That's why the data points are so important. This is why doing the research is going to help you figure out what you're going to do inside of your own proposal. Platform and controller information, we saw that, right? I made point a couple of times to say, hey, this one's you can only play this on Windows, or that one, I think it was Blubber, right? I think it was available on Steam, it was available on Xbox, and it was also available on some other platform. So, pretty interesting information, but that should also be part of your information. And then a list of any key features, only a list, right? I don't want you to get into great detail. I just want you to say, it's going to be stealth. It's also going to have horror. It's going to have jump scares. It's going to have melee components, or whatever it is, whatever your key feature is going to be. From there, also still blue, right? So we're still talking about, and then what I've done is I've broken this down into smaller things, right? So this is the game title. Here's our game title, and things to think about when you're creating your game title. If your game becomes successful, your title for your game will become the brand associated with your company. Choose the name wisely, right? Think about how, don't call it something ridiculous and then it doesn't make sense for your game, or people can't use that to look it up. Like, think Angry Birds, right? Very easy to, oh yeah, that was that game with the birds in it. Oh yeah, what was that called? I don't know. Let me type in birds. Filter search, boom, it's part of the name, the title of your name, or the title of your game, and so it pulls up easy because you've had some forethought into thinking how people might look at your game and how they might search for it. So all that in naming, right? Think about how your title will be displayed to create a logo for your game's genre. So whoever your artist is, if you have some 2D skills and some Photoshop, take the title of the game, bring it into Photoshop, find a font that looks good for that game, export it, and then bring that into your game document so that you have a cool logo for your game. So if it's going to be, again, horror game, I might go look up, for example, let's minimize this, and we'll go to the internet and type in, let's see, fonts, free fonts. There we go. Several websites on free fonts. We'll go to the first one. And here we have a Halloween fonts. Boom. Whatever the name of your game is going to be. And then you can download some of these. Some of them they will say for personal use only. So we would fall under educational clause because we're doing this for a group project, right? We're in school, so you really could download any of these. There's one that's free. That one says free. This one, if you wanted to use for your game officially, you probably could. For personal use only. Some of these people want recognition that their stuff was used, so you can see some of those. We could also type in our own. Let's say the name of our game is Guts Gore. So now we can see an example of what that would look like in each one of the fonts. And I think you could also, let's see, maybe search for things like blood, like blood splatter effects, or whatever you end up finding. Let's go to the next group. That one has some more ooh, that one's kind of cool with the spider webs. That one looks like people parts. Has some more blood kind of splatter. That one looks kind of cool. That one looks like a death metal logo. That one looks also like a death metal logo. So anyways, there's a good one. That one looks like somebody's splattered.
We also have Adobe. A lot of us have Adobe, the Adobe Creative Cloud that's given to us by the school. So that also has a lot of fonts too that you can just use for.
Yeah. So anyways, yeah. My point being, and maybe I'm belaboring the point, but you can definitely go find some cool. That one's kind of cool with the hands. And run your thing, and then see which one you like. You download it. That would then you would grab. Well, you know, let me just download one of these. So let's say we download that one. You'll see it turns into a zip file. I'll click on it, show in folder. I'm going to right click on it to extract it so it's no longer in a zip folder. And what I end up with is the TTF, which is the font foundry that they're using. And I will copy that. I will say copy from that location, and I will go to my C drive. And I believe here we would drop this into Windows. And there it is, fonts. And there's all the other fonts that are available on my computer. And I would just right click and paste it in there. And now I have that nightmare font. So when I go into Word, or if I go into Photoshop and I go through fonts, that will now show up as one of the fonts that I can use. And if I can remember what the name of the font was, I could just do a search for it instead of going through my entire list of fonts. But that would be an easy way to do that. So back to our proposal. Let's see. Okay, right. So you can make your logo. That's a very easy way to go through and make your logo. Game titles should reflect some aspect of the gameplay or characters in the game. Like I just call my game Gore Guts. So you can almost automatically associate that there's probably going to be blood splatter. It's definitely going to be a horror game, probably a melee slasher. So you see how that goes into Call of Duty, Halo. Where do they come up with these names, right? Why those? Keep the title simple and catchy, right? Too many words and you lose it. Most of them are going to be 1 to 3 words. You're not going to have titles that are going to go beyond. Think about movie titles, right? You don't have. I think the worst one ever was "Don't be a menace to South Central while drinking your juice while whatever."
Oh, that's the comedy version of it. Menace to
That's a great
Society.
movie though.
No, I know, but it's a incredibly long, irritating title. Now it was done on purpose, right? They're using that because the movie is what? It's a farce, right? So
Parts of Menace to Society.
yeah, that's the name. That's the original movie, and then the "Don't Be a Menace" would be the farce that was made as a parody to the other one. But an incredibly long title. Now, most people recognize it because the other movie was successful. This movie was funny. There was a lot of really, I guess, talented comedian people that were up and comers that were part of that movie. But also just because it was so weird, such a weird title. But think about it. Most titles are National Treasure, Beetlejuice, Jaws. Uh,
Focus, focus.
right. Two word, 3 word titles. Nothing more. So don't make yours like a super crazy long title unless you intend to make a funny game. That's the reason why people are going to remember it. Anyways, we discussed log lines the other day. I'll just briefly read over this. A log line is a log line, or log line, I guess I spelled it 2 different ways, is a brief summary of a television program, film, or book that states the central conflict of the story, often providing both a synopsis of the story's plot and an emotional hook to stimulate interest. A logline is a single sentence describing your entire story. However, it is not a straight summary of the project. It goes to the heart of what the project is in 1 or 2 sentences, defining the theme of the project while implying a bigger meaning. A logline helps content creators simply and easily sell their work in a single sentence because the emphasis is on what makes their property unique. The logline provides the content creator with a concise way to focus on the 3 major anchors of their writing: the protagonist wants, the goals, the desires, and what personal risk to the character there is. So we went over log lines the other day when we were talking about movie titles and movie log lines. So we'll just very quickly, let me just go and find some movie log lines. So we'll type in, you know what? Video, wrong keyboard. Video game log lines. Let's see. So a lot of these are slightly longer than what I thought they were going to be. Because log lines, right? There's taglines is what we talked about last time. Log lines are a little bit more in depth, right? So this is, and the reason why I want you to focus on this, and we're bringing this up, is because when you're doing your elevator pitch, you have to be very quick. You have to kind of put a lot of big ideas into a very small package, and you have to describe everything in like 1 or 2 sentences. So I'm looking here, Kingsman, right? That was a movie that most people would be familiar with. And this would be almost what the announcer would be saying when the movie starts, when the trailer starts playing, right? So think of like what if you had to turn your game into a trailer. What would the announcer say in like the first couple of seconds when the thing comes on, right after the big explosion or whatever? When a billionaire business plots to cull the human race, a trainee in a secretive independent intelligence agency has a chance to prove himself a better agent than the more privileged candidates, right? So, logline helps content creators simplify and sell their work. Let's zoom out a little bit. Their work in a single sentence because the emphasis is on what makes the property unique. A logline provides content creator with a concise ways to focus on what their antagonist, protagonist, goals, desires, risks to their character. When a billionaire business plots to cull the human race, a trainee in a secretive independent intelligence agency has an opportunity to prove himself. Protagonist, antagonist, there's your log line. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, some of us watched that movie. When a man and wife assassins discover they are working for rival agencies, they have to decide whether they put love ahead of business. What are their protagonists going through? What is the antagonist going through? Salt.
Kill each other because of the money.
Well, no, they ended up going for love. But yeah, their two agencies wanted to kill the other. Here's another Angelina Jolie movie. When a CIA agent is accused by a defector of being a Russian deep cover infiltrator who's part of a plot to assassinate the president of Russia and cause a nuclear war, she must decide whether her loyalties lie, whether she wants to take revenge, or whether she wants to blah blah blah. So let's see, TV, novel. So anyways, you guys can read a couple of these. All I did was type in logline examples, and you can definitely look for more of these. So this will sort of allow you to be able to say, who's our main character, what are they doing, who are they fighting, and how are they going to be better at the end, right? Like what are they going to save the world? Is it a personal struggle? Is it man versus nature? Is it man versus man? Is it man versus self, right? Those are usually the three major types of conflict, right? So for those who went through English classes and did stuff like that, I went through film, so for me this was a big plot and character development and story writing and things like that. You have to, who's the person we're following, why are we following them, who is the person who's creating conflict against them, and what are their two alternatives, which way can it go, what is the person going to learn, how are they going to help society. And the conflicts are person versus human, person versus self, person versus nature, or person versus person, it's another opponent, and a separate person outside themselves, or a body outside themselves. Okay, so log lines should be part of the blue part, the introduction, right? And All y'all can come up with this, right? In your group. You sit down, you figure out those things. Let's see. An example. So I've given you an example of a couple. Now these are taglines. Taglines are "No one can hear you scream in space," which is from Aliens. And there are 3.7 trillion fish in the ocean. They're looking for one, which is Finding Nemo. So this is usually the little thing that would show up at the bottom underneath the title. Oh, okay. So here I have a couple of other ones. A boy who communicates with spirits seeks the help of disheartened child psychologist. What movie is that? Yep. A 17-year-old high school student is accidentally sent 30 years in the past in a time-traveling DeLorean invented by his close friend and maverick scientist.
Back to the Future.
Back to the Future. A young janitor at MIT has a gift for mathematics, but needs help from a physiologist to find direction in his life.
I'm guessing 21, but I don't think it's 21.
Good Will Hunting.
Yep.
Okay, so still in the introduction, right? Genre. This should be fairly simple. I've put a list of the genres, some genres that are here. As you guys do your research, you'll find out what genres there are and how people are describing their gameplay. So genre, or a French word for meaning kind or sort of, is any form of type of communication in any mode, written, speaking, digital, artistic, etc., with socially agreed upon conventions developed over time. So an action-adventure game is an action-adventure game because there's melee, there's sense of danger, there's enemy characters that are combating you directly, whereas a role-playing game, you associate the person with who you are and you level that character up, and then there's different storylines that you follow based on which character you've chosen or what quests you've gone on. Simulation games would be like any game that takes a real world environment and creates a simulation of it so that you can play that as opposed to doing it in the real world. Strategy games would be like chess, checkers, you generally board games, but not always. Strategy would mean that you would have to think outside the box to be able to do that. Sports games would be multiple teams or sports that people agree upon that's a sport and they've made a video game out of it. Puzzle games would be things like Sudoku, I don't know, what else? That thing where you move the little squares around until you put the object back into the picture. I think anybody born in the 80s and 90s might have had like a plastic version of that. And then idle games, which is a really weird concept, but things like I've seen a game where what are those called? The Pocket Monster stuff, not Pokemon, not, but there was the Touchymons, Tomodachi, whatever they were. Those things were they were like little pills, and they were on a keychain, and you would open it up and feed your animal every so often. Otherwise, it would die, and you'd have to start over. And that would be an idle game because you would come in and time would have to pass before you'd be able to do anything with your game. I've seen a game where it's like a cat, and the cat comes in and leaves and comes in and leaves, and sometimes you put milk out, and sometimes the cat doesn't come back for weeks. Sometimes it comes back every day, and it annoys you. It will make your phone vibrate if it's scratching on the door. It'll make meow sounds if it wants to be let in, and it'll come through your phone. Like, it's such a weird game. But it's an idle game that it's just running in the background idly. But anyway, so genre, socially, that means people all agree that yes, that's this kind of game, that's that kind of game. Genre is most popularly known as a category of literature, music, or other forms of art. Let's see, visual based on some set of stylistic criterias, yet genre can be aesthetic, rhetorical, communicative, and functional. In video games, it is most often described the primary function goal of the player, right? What are you doing in the game? That's generally what the genre is going to be defined as. Introduction to target audience. So again, still an introduction, target audience. Who is the game developed for? Kids, older adults, boys, girls, both, age groups, demographics, regions of the world, languages, anything else that divide people into categories. Is the game designed for hardcore players who like deep, highly challenging games, or for casual people who like to play a bit each day? So there are some people that will sit down and forget that the world exists for a year when when Halo comes out, or when Call of Duty. My little brother used to be one of these people. He'd get Call of Duty. You couldn't talk to him for like a month until he came out of his room. And that was just the way he played games, and then he wouldn't touch a video game for the rest of the year. It was Call of Duty for a month, and then no video games the rest of the year. And that's how he balanced it. And then you have some people like me that just want to open up my video games, see that I need the reward benefit thing daily. So I need my little hit of sugar, or my little what do they call it in your brain? The reward centers, dopamine, right? The dopamine. I need that little from upping up a character, or knowing that I'm about to unlock this character, or something like that. Or I call these also people that just sit there. Like, is your game one of those games that people are going to play? Like, I call it the magazine in the bathroom, right? It used to be people would take a magazine or a newspaper into the bathroom and sit there and read that while they were doing their business. Now they take their phone, which is also gross, but because they're touching in their phone, and then they touch other parts, and then they touch their phone again, right? And anyways, it's gross. It's really, you shouldn't take your phone in the bathroom, but everybody does. But anyways, some people will play that little, like, I have a game called Triple something. I have to bring my phone out now. It's basically a strategy game. The game takes about 5 minutes to play, which is about right. It's called Triple Town. And the game's long enough to where when I'm finished with the game, I'm usually finished with what I'm doing in there, and that's when I'm going to play that game. I'm not going to play it for hours or days or months. It's a quick game, right? Who has the money to purchase your game, right? So how does purchasing happen in your game? Is it going to be in-app purchases? Is it going to be up? So like the Triple Town game, if I do really well, there's ways that I can buy crystals or something like that. And if I have crystals, I might be able to buy things that I need to make to where I don't die in the game as I progress in it. And so they might catch me that way with the in-app purchases, or it's a free game, but there's in-app purchases, or it's $4 and you have unlimited gameplay. And then really is who has the money, right? So when we think about who has the money, if you're going to make a game for toddlers, the people who have the money are not the toddlers, it's their parents. And then you have to think, is it a game that's going to allow the parents to give it to the child? Because most people, usually most parents give them toddlers or whatever, iPads or whatever. So it's like a modern day pacifier, right? You give it to the kid, and the kid shuts up for 30 minutes to whatever, right? And now the parent can drive without the kid driving them nuts in the back seat, right? Because they have this pacifier. And so if I'm making a game for that target audience, how long do I want the gameplay to be? 1 minute, 5 minutes? Do I want quick games, short games? How is that going to play into how the parent is using this as a pacifier for their kid, right? And then how do I make money off of that? Am I going to be able to? Would the parents find that as an annoying feature? Or if I'm making a horror game, who are the people that are going to be able to buy it? People that are 18 and over. So depending on what I put in my game, how many cuss words I put in, or how much graphics there are, or how graphic I make the thing, Am I putting my rating above a certain price point, which then I can no longer sell to, the teen or the preteen crowd that may have been able to have played this game, audiences over 10 or audiences over 12 or teen audiences, where there's a little bit less gore in the game, but I now have opened myself up to this market where teenagers are using their devices. Maybe they're not aware of how the in-app purchase thing works, and they don't know money yet. So they'll have that talk with their parents later. You spent $200 on a video game. Meanwhile, my company just made $200, and so that went into my target audience. I don't want to make it too blood or guts because I want to make it available for younger audiences who might slip up and do some in-app purchasing, which might benefit me as a company, and that might be my business model, right? Because those are stylistic changes that I've made in the game based on who I'm targeting my game to. I'm not saying that's a great business model. I'm just saying that that could happen. And it's the difference between making your game available for 18 and over or making your game teen. Don't say it's designed for everyone. I mean, you could put a general audience in there, but try to think about who you're going to be selling it to. Let's see, platform. That's going to be easy for us. It's going to be PC. If you were doing this in real world, you might think, mobile devices are very hot today. Everybody has got a mobile devices. How much do those mobile devices on average make from in-app purchases or from purchasing the game outright? What are the prices for mobile game versus what it would be for a console game or for a game that you might play on the web? So that's console. Key features. So remember, this is just a list. And in the introduction, it is not necessary to get into great detail of what the key features are. The key feature should only be referred to in the introduction if that key feature makes your game stand out to from your competitors, right? So if it's a key feature that is not available in other games and is available in your game, then it's definitely something that you want to draw attention to in your introduction. A more important detailed description of key features can be given later in either the gameplay description or the programming side or the art side, depending on where you want how it fits. So now we've entered the green section, right? So if we go back up here, the green section is game mechanics, right? So this would be the next piece of your documentation, would be game mechanics. So this is where you're going to fill in more information about the game itself, right? So gameplay is a specific way that the characters interact with the game, and in particular with video games. Gameplay is the pattern defined through the game rules, connections between player and the game, challenges and overcoming them, the plot and the player's connection with it. So, character, world building, storyline. If you're setting a melee and it's a horror melee, then you might introduce the area of the character is so and so. They are part of a ghost hunting team. They have just gone into the most haunted house in America, and now they must solve the riddle to be able to get out, right? So there's my storyline, the world building, modern day, what do they call this? Reality TV people. I think they've even made a movie like this, right? Where they had a movie where it was sort of like Ghost Hunters or something like that went into a haunted house, and the haunted house got with them, right? And that was the storyline. But here, we could make a video game that way. Visual style. We referred to it could be low poly, it could be realistic, it could also be maybe this is all built outside, or it's all in a castle, or whatever the visual style is going to be for it. So whatever the setting is, it's a game in outer space, or it's going to be a game on a spaceship, or it's going to be a game on a foreign planet, or it's going to be a game in somebody's nightmare, right? So visual style will help you decide by pegging that. It will help you decide what the visual style for that might be. What are the character's goals? Well, in the storyline that I just gave, it's getting out of that house in one piece without dying. If it's a nightmare, it might be waking up. If it's a space station, it might be being rescued. Or taking control back of the space station from the aliens who have now are in control of it, right? So that gives my character goals and then helps me with what am I going to do in the game as far as designing it. Game components. Let's see, do I actually bring this down into... I'll ask a bunch of questions. Components. Okay, yeah, components, core mechanics. So yeah, I'm sort of describing all these things as I go. Okay, so those are the things right there. Let's see. Visual style, character goals, game components, core mechanics, user controls, and then of course we break that down into here. So does the player have an avatar? Does the character get to help other characters? Are there NPCs in the game? Or is it just you by yourself? We saw a lot of that where it's like single player. For example, is it multiplayer or not? Are there enemies? I had a group last semester create a game where it was a horror game based on light. And if you basically you survived by finding the next light source, and if you couldn't find the next light source in the dark, your character, if they were exposed to the dark for too long, would die. And then you'd have to start over from wherever your last save point was. So in that game, there were no enemies. The enemy was the insanity that the character was going through based on the fact that they weren't able to see light. Because they didn't even need enemy characters. What would happen is, as time went on and they didn't get the light source, the bar would go down. That would normally be their health bar, and then at that point their character would die, and it would look like the world kind of like slowly got darker and darker and darker until finally it was gone. And your character officially, the screen would come up and say, hey, your character didn't make it. Does the game have a story arc? In some cases, yes. In some cases, no. Sometimes if it's a hacker slasher like Ghost and Ghouls, you really didn't need much of a storyline for that game. It was just straight across 2D platformer, and you could see the bad guys coming up to you because they would be the only other things that were moving on the screen. But if you're doing a role-playing game, then you might need a little bit more story behind your character to give them the reason that they're doing. Now, you don't have to explain it right away. It could be developed as the game goes on, but definitely that it would have to be hashed out prior, that it would have to be part of your game proposal document. Is there a functional world or setting for the world that we should know about? Sample artwork to show the characters and what the world looked like would be a big bonus here. So this is where your artists could come in. Maybe they could draw like what the environment might be. It might be a castle. It might be snow mountains. It might be a desert. Maybe the whole thing is about finding water in the desert, and that's how you survive. I know I watched a movie recently that was comet came by, dried up, smacked into the world. The survivors that were left in a world with no oceans, and boom, there's your storyline. And right away, people are like, "Yeah, well, you need water." So there's your character's motivation is to go out and go find water. Visual style. Low poly, high poly. Is it a 2D world? Is it a 3D world? We're obviously working in a 3D world. Is it a real world? Is it a fantasy world? Does it happen in space? If it's a fantasy world, then you might have things like magic. If it's a real world, you would not have magic. If it's space, you have no gravity. If it's underground, you have no lights or sky. If it's in the past, you have to find a lot of materials and meshes that will work for that past environment. If it's in the future, same thing. You'd have to find the science lab, the spaceship packs, and all that to help you with that. But you wouldn't generally mix genres, right? If it's a space game, then it's all about space. You're going to be focused on that for your visual artwork. So now you have to think about doors that don't have hinges, right? That like slide, like Star Trek doors. You would think of what are they? The airlocks, right? If you're in space, you have airlocks. If it's in a fantasy world, there are no airlocks. So how would that be represented? If it's a fantasy world, your locks, if you're locking a door, it might be like one of those big old school locks, like a skeleton key. If it's space, it might be a number pad for the same thing. That will change. And then the simple artwork, again, remember that this is for your game proposal, so you don't have to know exactly what it's going to look like. You can just have somebody sort of like draw a panel or find a picture of an old school lock and use that. Maybe the game is a maze where you have to unlock certain doors. I know a lot of Resident Evil was like that, right? You'd have a key, you'd have to find this key card, it would be in this room, you had an enemy character that was in that room, you'd have to find the bazooka before you could go into that room, so then that way you could kill the enemy character in one thing, grab the key card, and then move on to the next level, which was the whole point of I think of that game. So maybe in the game proposal document for Resident Evil, they have a key card somewhere in the game proposal just as a little a visual cue that, hey, this is the thing you're going to be looking for. And it doesn't have to look like what it's going to look like actually in the game, but, hey, we're thinking about this. So visual style, right? Character's goals. What is the character trying to accomplish in the game, i.e. what is the win state? How do I know that I won? Is it me beating up the dragon? Is it me rescuing the damsel in distress? Is it is it a stealth game? If it's a stealth game, is it sneaking up on my opponent and, if it's an assassin game like Assassin's Creed, maybe killing a certain character without getting caught by the rest of the other characters, right? That's my win state. What does he or she have to do to achieve their goal? So now that we know what the win condition is, what are the what are the things, the adversaries or the things in the world that are going to be stopping me from being able to accomplish this goal? If I'm playing a golf game, then the sand pit would be a bad thing. The goal would be to beat everybody with a better score and shooting in less times than anybody else. If it's a stealth game, it's like I said, just finding the person that you're meant to assassinate prior to, or other stealth games may be stealing. You go in there and you steal an artifact, or you do like a Robin Hood game where you steal from the wealthy and give to the poor, or whatever. What is the goal? What barriers or obstacles make this difficult from achieving? If we're talking about the golf game, it would be the sand pit. It might be falling off the course. It might be shooting outside of the game area by hitting the ball too hard. Maybe there's limits on how many times I can hit the ball. If you don't make it within 5, you automatically lose. Other barriers. If I'm playing Super Mario Brothers, barriers would be the Goombas. They would be the flower, any enemies, right, that would be coming towards me that would be taking or removing life away from me. How can the player fail to achieve their goals? What is the lose state? How do I know that I have lost and I need to go back to a save point, or I need to start the game over again? Well, if you're playing chess, it would be your king being knocked out, right? If we're talking about Assassin's Creed, it would be you being caught, or you being killed by one of the other players, right? You losing your health all the way to a certain point, and then once your health reaches 0, that would be the lose state, then you lose, right? So there has to be a win condition and a lose condition for every level in your game for your character to know and for the person playing to know whether they've won or they've lost. What kind of feedback does the player get in progress towards the goal? So if we're playing something like Pac-Man, the goal would be to eat all the little pellets, and we can see that we've almost ate all the pellets because they disappear off the screen. Once we eat all the pellets, the level's over, we'll move on to the next level. So there's a measurable thing right there. Now a lot of this will come with a heads-up display with some kind of a life bar or life status, and it will move down as you lose or gain points, whether you get like a med pack or whether you get hit by an enemy character, right? So that would be the progress that the character would know how close they are to achieving their goal. Right now I'm playing a game that's absolutely frustrating. It's Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, and they have quests. And let's say one of their quests is you have to apply 40 thermal detonators to enemy characters. Well, if you're not counting as you're doing it, there's no tally on the side that tells me I've got 39, 40, or when I've achieved that goal. So I don't know when to kill the rest of the team of the opposing enemy characters if I have not reached that point. And it's incredibly frustrating because sometimes they'll have things like remove 700 points of health. And you have no idea whether you've done that or not. You can see their health go down, but you don't know what the total health is on that character. So if by beating that character you can't tell whether you've achieved that goal or not. So it's incredibly frustrating when you've given somebody a task and then you haven't given them a way to figure out how close they are or whether they've reached that goal. So how is a player rewarded when the goal is achieved? If I beat it, I get so many of this currency, so many crystals, so many data this, and then I can use those in the game somewhere else to level up a character or gain entry to another level or another game something, right? So, how are you rewarded? So, how do you win? How do you lose? How do you get rewarded? That should be in your documentation for your game. And it should also be a pivotal part of what your game is, because that's the gameplay, right? Which is why we're in here, gameplay. All right, so components. What kind of things, should be capitalized. What kind of things are there in the game? For example, enemies, objects, environments, power-ups, points. So, if we're playing something like Resident Evil, you could put the enemy characters as components that would be taking points away based on what we did up there in the last slide, right? Win, lose. Other objects might be med packs, they might be ammunition, they might be certain types of guns, which would be in that game. Those would be the power-ups, right? Getting the bazooka that I think once you beat the game, you get the bazooka in the first level or something, right? And you can play the whole game again with the bazooka. And then I think if you beat it up again, you get like unlimited ammo. So now you can just like go through with bazookas and just have fun blasting stuff in that game. So how do you improve the power-ups, the points? How do you make the game playable? What do these things look like? What are the enemy characters? Are they zombies? Are they witches? Are they reanimated, whatever? Are they Goombas? Are they, if you're playing Sonic, it would be fuzzy animals that happen to have technology stuff on them, right? What do they look like? Power-ups. What are they what do med packs look like? Is it just a plus that rotates? Is it something that looks like a bandage? Does it look like a bottle of ointment? What do these things look like? So that would be the graphics people. They would start 3D stuff. So mechanics, this would be more the programmers, right? What does the player do in the game? This is often best described through actions like running, jumping, racing, counting, puzzle solving, or exploring. So, core mechanics in a hacker slasher would be just that. You're running around and you're so you'd be running, jumping, slashing, right? If it's maybe the the game that the students created last semester with the fear thing with the lights, right? There it would be searching, puzzle solving. Maybe there's certain switches that you have to hit in a certain order to get the lights on in that room because you're in a very old Victorian house, and if you hit this switch here, it knocks that thing off, or if you hit this switch here, it knocks that thing off, right? So then that would be puzzle solving. So it'd be walking, puzzle solving. So what are you doing in the game? First person shooter, right? So the controls. How does the player control what's happening in the game? What does pushing a certain button do on the controller do? Can the player move a block by touching the screen or dragging it? So if it's a touch screen, you'll usually have those two circles at the bottom. Those would be your controls. One would be an up, down, left, right. The other one would be a kick, punch, block, jump, right? If we are playing on a keyboard mouse, you would put a left click shoots your ammunition, right click blocks, scrolling up and down moves your point of view. You do have a run, a forward, back, left, right. So your WASD or your up, down, left, right on your keys. So you would have to say all of these keys are here. These are the keys that we're going to use. Since it's going to be a Windows game and it's going to be keyboard and mouse, these are the buttons, and we have a whole plethora of buttons on a keyboard that we could assign things to, and we could say this does this, that does that. User experience. When the player starts the game, what steps do they follow? What screens will they see? How are the levels in the game structured? How does the player move from one part to the next part? Creating a flowchart is an excellent way to plan out how levels, menus, screens, and cutscenes will work. So this is not very different from what somebody who's building a website might do. They go, this is the splash page. When somebody types in www.hccs.edu, where do they go? This is the page. Now on that page, we have all these buttons. These links will take you to other pages. What do those pages do? Well, there's a page for students, there's a page for teachers, and there's a page for administrators. Then what do those pages do? It does this, it does this, it does this, and this. And then how do they get back to the main menu, right? How can they get back from whatever page they're on back to the main menu, right? So this would be the same thing for us developing a game. You put the CD in the game, or you download the game, you double click on the exe file to open the game. What's the first thing you see? Video game title splash screen with maybe two buttons down at the bottom, one that says quit or exit game, and then another one that says play game, right? So what would I see up there? There would be a chart. It would say splash screen, and then the two options, there would be two bubbles. One would say quit, and then that would be the end of the game, and there would be no other bubbles after that. And then the other one would say play game. So from there we would see another bubble that would say level 1, and then there's two things that can happen after level 1. Either you win or you lose. If you win, you go to the next level. If you lose, you go back to the main page, and you would build a chart. So then that way, as you're building your game, you know what they're going to see, what they're going to see next. If this happens, it takes them here. If it doesn't happen, it takes them there. So you create a small flow chart that will sort of help you sort of plan how many levels you need, how many different screens you might need, how many different menu option displays we'll set up later when we get into that option later. Here's a flowchart for actually the game I'm playing, which is Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, which is this is a crazy game in the fact that there's not a level 1, a level 2, a level 3. What you have is like a list of characters that you can unlock, and then if you unlock those characters, they allow you to be able to unlock other characters. So what they've done is they've given you a chart of, if you start here, this is the best place to start if you're building up these characters, because if you get all these characters, they give you that character, and then with this character in combination with these other characters, you can unlock this one and this one. So basically it starts off with Phoenix Squadron up there. Phoenix Squadron allows you to be able to unlock this guy, which is, oh god, I'm having a brain fart. anyways, he then helps you unlock certain other characters, and you can see how the flowchart goes. Now, this is obviously gets a lot more complex, but if you don't have this character, you can't unlock that character. If you don't have these two characters, you can't unlock that character. So if you don't have Yoda, then you can't because it's needed for whatever raid or whatever. And so that's how the flowchart would work here. In most flowcharts, it would be game starts, menu screen, level 1, win, lose, level 2, win, lose, level 3, win, lose. Now, there may be situations where you might have overlapping storylines, like if you're playing Skyrim. You can have multiple quests, you can become part of certain guilds, you could become a good guy or a bad guy. I think Fable does a great job of going like you can do good things, and that makes certain storylines available. You can do bad things, and that reduces the good storylines and makes only bad storylines available. And then your character physically starts changing based on what direction you go, which I think is a neat key feature for that game. Your game's key features section is a bullet point list of items that you would like to put into your game that would make your game different from other people's games, right? So maybe in your game you have a plasma gun, but the plasma gun also shoots holes in the wall that become portals that your character could then walk through, right? So we've just described Portal. So that would be a key feature in Portal. And it would be a bullet point there might be special gun that creates portals through materials, an entrance and exit portal. And then that would be it. That would all I would write for the key feature. List of key features. Okay, so then we get into the concept art. So the concept art should be sprinkled throughout the document, right? There should be some concept art on the front page, your logo work. If it's going to be a zombie game, are your zombies going to look realistic? Are they going to be 8-bit zombies? If it is going to be zombies, are you going to show just environments like levels? So as you're flipping through the game documentation, there might be behind the text or in a corner on every page like a new level, right? So whoever, there's 4 people in the group. Everybody, we're going to make a zombie game. My level is going to be in somebody's house, like a neighborhood. Your level is going to be in an industrial environment. Your level is going to be in a school, and your level is going to be in an office building, right? Then we can string together how the character needs to move from one location to another location to another location based off of the chart that we figured out how they were going to be moving around. They're going to start off at their home, then they're going to go to school, then they're going to be at the office building, and then finally they end up at the airport or something, right? And so how does the character get there? What is their motivation from getting there from one location to the next location? And how can we explain these different environments in the game? So that could be placed in the background on the pages. You maybe have a concept art for what the school might look like, broken. You might have a concept art for what the office might look like, broken. And instead of putting the zombie characters in there, you're making the world cool, or making the world a character, right? And then the last part of it should be your name, some kind of avatar, a picture of yourself there, and what your description in the team was. I was the group leader or the manager for the team. I was the programmer. I was the artist. And there, normally what you would see here would be titles that these people have worked on, past projects that these people have worked on. So there's an example there. John Doe worked for company game. He's the company game founder. He's a programmer who previously worked on as the director of Knitram Games, which is my name backwards, and was the lead programmer on Game X and Game X2: The Return. Right? So that's what I would put in as because what that does is it says, wow, not only do we have a team here, remember this is a brochure about your game, you're trying to get money, but these people have also worked on other high-end projects, or by seeing this, we have more confidence in the people that, because you're selling not only the game, but you're also selling yourself, right? You're selling you as the programmer, as the person who's going to be able to make this game happen. And if you have some games underneath your belt or other projects that you've worked on, you could definitely put that here. If I was doing a real world thing for myself, I would say Martin Hansen, founder of GRR Entertainment, studio degrees in audio engineering, filmmaking, and graphic design. 20 years of education, has worked for Houston Community College, has both worked for privately and at the college level. I don't have to say who I've worked for. And studio owner. And then I might list a name of projects that I've worked on, right? Appleseed 2, or let's see, another project. What was the name of the... I'm trying to think of the name of the game with Jason David Frank. I would definitely put that one down there. I just can't remember what it was called. I'd have to go back and look at it. But I would put that down there. Now, for yourselves, this might be programs that you know how to use.
Legend of the White Dragon? Is that what you're trying to talk about?
Which one?
Legend of the White Dragon?
No. If it was made by Saban, or Saban was part of it, then no. This would have been an indie game that was produced specifically for Jason David Frank. So it would have been on a mobile platform also, only, I think.
Is it a Power Rangers game, right?
Huh?
Power Rangers game?
It's based off of Power Rangers, but it's not a Power Ranger game. Because he doesn't have licensing over Power Rangers. He doesn't own Power Rangers. He doesn't own... he doesn't own the Green Ranger. He has to get permission from Saban to use his likeness out there as the Green Ranger. So he can go to conferences. He can go to conferences and say, "I'm the actor that played the Green Ranger." But if he does any marketing with the Green Ranger, more than just him wearing a costume and taking a picture with somebody, he has to pay, because he doesn't own the Green Ranger. Whoever owns the title, the Power Rangers, owns the likeness of the Green Ranger, and only they can make games with that as the basis. Now, the game that we produced for him was as himself. He was the main character in the game. So it was Jason David Frank, not the Green Ranger. But because he's got a fan base, and because people know him as the Green Ranger, and because he's all about martial arts, and because his other business is owning two...
He's also an MMA fighter.
Correct. His other business is martial arts. Then he can play upon his actual persona, him, Jason David Frank, as being the character in the game. You see what I'm saying? So that was the angle that we took. So it was still a fighting game. It was him, and it was his likeness that we used in the game, but not a Power Ranger. Now, he did have to have special permission from Saban. Like, he had to clear it with them. He had to say, "Hey, I'm doing this."
Making fun.
Huh?
No, that's a movie. Sorry.
Yeah, no, this would have been a game. It would have been for a mobile platform only. They were trying to develop it for a bigger platform, so then I left the project after that because I'd already done what I needed to do. He was 19, I think. He started Power Rangers when he was either 18 or 19 years old, for the person as.
And he did Family Matters. He did Sweet Valley High.
So yeah, I mean, he's worked on other projects, but he's best known for... Anyway, so now we've seen, and you guys can always go back to this document. This is a PDF that's available on the webpage, so all you have to do is go back to Home, go back to There's Group Projects, and the thing that we just looked at was Game Proposal PDF, right? So as you guys break up into your groups, game leader or group leaders, you would sit down, you'd go, what genre game are we going to do? What are we going to look at? What is our game going to be? How can we start building storyline? How can we build the tagline, the log lines? And this is how you're going to, I would assume this would be the greater part of what the next meeting for most of you guys is going to be. Figuring out what your game is going to be so that you can start writing your proposal now that you've seen what I need to see inside the proposal, right? So everything in there was, yeah, he was both the green and the white.
Being my Black Dino Ranger.
Yep. Yep, he had that big giant dinosaur that he would go into.
Zord.
Yep. So, anyways, let's look at a couple of examples of what the game proposals might look like, right? So, the first one that I'm going to click on, I think, is this one here. And this one is going to be, oh, okay. Nope, that's 8 key elements to make a game successful, which is not what I wanted to click on. Game concepts examples. Okay, so this one should be the right document. There we go. All right, now these are very, very short proposals. These are generally one-page proposals just to show you how basic it could be. But since you guys are groups of 4, there's 2 pages for that one. That one's kind of cool. Here's actually one where they just did hand drawings. All right, so let's take it from the top. This one's kind of wordy. I do like the fact that they do have some character on there. They also have another graphic on there which doesn't give me too much information, but I think this one was about exploration 2D worlds, find the cells fighting. So basically their world is turning black and white, and they have to try to return color to their world that is black and white. So everything in the world that becomes black and white needs to be shot at by this sort of gun that you have here that shoots color back out at the world. And somehow there are 7 colors, and you have to put the colors back and destroy the enemy characters that are making everything black and white. Your hero has a weapon, so this would be like special features, right? Items, special powers, and helpers, large amounts of battle possibilities, achievements for... Blah, blah, blah. Let's see, what's this one? This one looks like a puzzle game. So it says, Back Into the Ground is a puzzle game for PC where a small mutant with gravity controls the ability to transverse a Leviathan sewer to return home. So let's see. Not quite sure, but that's a cool concept. This one is all words. Yeah, this one's very boring. There's no images on there, no graphic, no logo. I don't even want to read this. This one seems very, very interesting. They're showing you gameplay. They're showing you examples of levels. They've got a lot of nice graphics. They're giving me certain information. Let's see. This one I think is the best out of all of these examples that are here. It gives us the setting. So the name of the game is Deep Lights. Deep Lights is a platform game. Setted. I don't think that's an actual word. I think they misspelled that. It's deaded. I think it's set in the deep ocean. In a post-apocalyptic world, human beings destroy themselves, poisoning the oceans with radioactive waste. The balance of life in the sea has collapsed. The global conflict. So they're giving you a whole subplot. And basically what's happened is you are this jellyfish dude. You have some kind of super cool laser that could destroy. And you basically are, I guess, eating radioactive material. And you have to destroy other creatures and then other creatures that might want to eat you. And I think they've done a good job of explaining that. And then they show a whole picture of what one of the levels might look like, right? So they did a good job with the artwork, showing us where enemy characters might be and what a level might look like. Die on Me. Let me see. Die on Me is a side-scrolling platformer where a player has to make the character die in order to succeed. So there was actually a game that was on, I think it was on the Cartoon Network, called 5 Minutes to Die. and you had 5 minutes to go through a level and pick up all the different things that you could and try to find ways to make your character's life bar go all the way down in less than 5 minutes. So that's very similar to what this game is doing. And again, this game I don't really want to look at because it's just in the sketch form. There's another one, no words, not even in English. All right, let's look at it. Let's look at some other ones. So those I like to start with because it shows you where you might start off. Like your documents might start like that, like as handwritten notes, and then eventually we're going to develop them into full ideas. So here's actually the BioShock pitch. So here's a professional. So you have BioShock, you have the name of the company, you can see that they have graphic logo that goes all the way through their whole page. Let me zoom out a bit. Okay, so that's their first page. They have genre, they have from the creators of System Shock 2 and Freedom something. And then they have the name of their company. And let's see. So here's their introductory page, right? So things grow inside you. We're part of you now. You think you're here. You hear them say, blah, blah, blah. So if you read all that, they sort of set you up with what the environment is going to be like and what you need to do. Then they have a table of contents, which I think is really nice. So then that way you can get to, you know, if you want to remember where something was. Then they have an overview. So here is their gameplay, their visuals, any physics. So this is sort of like their list of key features. And then it gives you BioShock is a spiritual successor to System Shock 2, 1998 Game of the Year. Made by this company, introduces the definitive interactive world simulation, harnessing the key mind behind So they're kind of throwing out some of the people that worked on this and showing them other projects that they've worked on. Let me see, it's an Unreal World Engine, irrational, BioShock is a modern day nightmare of terrifying nexus between religious fanaticism and unbound science. The player must come to grips with the remnants of a dangerous cult and technological, biological horrors they've created in their giant underground and undersea complex that lies beneath the sands of a seemingly deserted island. So there was what? Our log line, right? That's their log line. That's there. It's in their documentation, right? BioShock is a horrifyingly sophisticated, visually stunning, open-ended experience that will leave the players gasping for breath. See, they're identifying their target audience and telling you why why somebody's going to want to play this. Then they have images from the game. They have also other people that have played the game and reviewed it. And here's a list of features. Redefine the first player shooter on console by immersing the player in a reactive and modifiable world. I think one of the big things about BioShock was you could just pick things up and turn them into weapons and assemble them and create new weapons. Be the most visually stunning Unreal game ever created. So it was made with the Unreal Engine. Unparalleled physics support via the Karmic game or the Karma physics engine. So I assume that was some kind of physics engine that was being used when they created their game. And now we have other things like ray tracing and other things that we could say, hey, these are things that we can add that are key features that are hot right now that are available with the platform that we're using. Provide an accessible and transparent interface, so that means it's easy to play. Tell a mature and terrifying story, scare the hell out of people, right? Good key features. How are you controlling it? What is your character doing? Make your own weapons, right? So this is another key feature that they actually spent a lot of time on because this is one of the cool things. This is one of the main things about the game. How weapons work, how you hack security systems. So that must be another feature. So instead of key cards, you're hacking the security system. You can modify the world, so there's lots of things that you can change inside the game that will create different environments that will allow you to be able, so you can increase or decrease the amount of oxygen in the room. Maybe that does something to other components that are there. You can magnetize the floor so other things that are not magnetic would float around, or in this case, stick things to like bombs. So if you had like a bunch of underwater mines or something, right? Most of the time those things are magnetic. They move to the boat that's going over them. So something magnetized, ionization of air, electrifying the floor, flooding the room with water, manipulating the temperature so things so you have cold-blooded enemies. Maybe you reduce the temperature in the room so then that way they move slower, so then that way you have enough time to get through the level. Let's see, what else are they doing here? So temperature was a big thing in their game. Let's see, they list the bad guys. So you can see that this thing has actually gone on for, I don't know how many pages this is. Let's get to the end. 17 pages. Now this is a big game, so there's a lot of stuff for them to go over. But if you went through this document fine tooth and comb, you would see a lot of the stuff that I was talking about in that game documentation information or the PDF earlier. And you can see how they put their PDF, or how they would put their game document together. And remember, this was off of the heels of, all content documented. This was 2002 when somebody put this PDF together, and they took this to somebody, a developer, to try to sell BioShock to them. Why is the game going to be fun? Oh, because it's an underwater game with this big and you have this post-apocalyptic world, and people are basically going to be able to make their own weapons, and you can control the environments to be able to, so you have control over the environment by temperature, flooding, changing the air quality. You have control over the weapons by creating and consuming or creating your own weapons. And that would be, it'd be like, okay, cool. That seems neat. Most games give you set weapons and you have to find them, where this game lets you make them. Most games you're not able to control the environmental aspects of it, but because this is in a underground facility after some kind of horrible apocalyptic nightmare, that explains everything that we're seeing, and the fact that it's not an open world up there, it's underneath, underground. You don't have a sun. Everything is in this tunnel system or this underground lab. So very cool. Like the way they did that. Let's look at another one. So this was more of an independent project, a smaller team. It's more or less what we would be. They went with the name of their game is The Flame on the Flood, the molasses.
My buddy made this game.
Oh yeah?
Seriously, yeah. I've known him. I knew him for like 10 years, and he left my job and went to create with his friends create this game.
Okay. Well, this was one of the PDFs that I found when I was looking for stuff, and that's cool.
Wow.
So here they have a game. They give you a small description of what the game is. They give you some what the characters might look like. And they're definitely setting a tone for the game. They've given you a map, which I think is what's important in this game, is moving around and finding different things that you're going to assemble. So then that way you have a bigger world, or you forget what the actual play is. I think it's leveling up and making it through. And this is very reminiscent of what you would see in like a Super Mario Brothers game, right? Where they have the big map, you have the starting point, and then this one takes you to that one, and you go to the next one, you go to the next one, and as you get through whichever one of the different points in this game, you can then access other places on the map, and then eventually it's like a world-building game, right? Where you get to see the whole thing. Then they have character sheets, so they have a breakdown, because I guess the characters are important in this game, who you're playing. The other big thing would be the mode of transportation in this game, which you're building like a raft, which allows you to then be able to float to the other cities or the other islands on this game, to find more stuff to build a better raft or make your island better than the other people's island. Then there is a store in here, so you can find the stuff that you're collecting. So it's a searching game, right? You collect certain many things, you can come back to the store, you can trade them in for other stuff that you're looking for that you need in the game. And then here's sort of like a little bit of what the map might look like if you're actually playing. There's the map again if you're actually playing. And I think they're introducing different main areas. So the Marshway, the Something Fortunes, the Hardwater, and then you as the actual character in the game. And so they didn't really explain, let's say this one wasn't a very wordy one, right? Where we saw the BioShock one, and the BioShock one went into, oh, we're cool, we've got these people, we made this game, here there's some going, hey, this is what the game's going to look like, these are what your characters are going to look like, and really it's the aesthetics of what this game looks like that are going to make you want to play it, right? It's the world that they're introducing you to and the characters that they're introducing you to, and this neat transportation system. The store, well, stores are in other games, but what it might actually look like if you were playing the game. And this, if you were to take, let's say, this document, this game proposal to a company, and you showed them this, they'd be like, wow, you guys have actually done some development, or your art is hot, we really like the way this is low poly, we're probably going to be able to put this in a lot of different mobile and in this and in that. And there's they get a sense of the gameplay with something like this. So this one is a cool one because this one went heavy on the art, right, where the BioShock went heavy more on the key features that was going to be part of that game. That was to sell it. Because remember, this is all about selling the game. So here's another one. This is a bigger company. And what they did was, this is more of like, you have different characters, and it's a team game, sort of like Undead, where you have so many people on your team, you're given so much time, and you have to go and kill the other team. So, and in this, what they'll do is they'll introduce you to the so the background for the story. It's a post-apocalyptic world where different groups are fighting for blah blah blah, and so here they'll introduce you the different characters. Sometimes they'll show you special weapons that that character might be able to carry. Like this one's probably like the, I guess he looks like he can do biochemicals. It looks like they're all wearing masks. Except this guy. That guy's not wearing a mask. She had like a face helmet that went over. But this dude looked like he was wearing air breathing. This guy also looks like he's wearing air breathing. And so this is what they're doing. They're introducing the different, the tanks, the attackers, the healers, the magic users, or whatever, right? And so you would see the different people or the different types of groups that would be in this game. And then, so I guess this is the medic, right? Sawbone. There's his medic pack. And let's see. And then eventually, and so there might. So with this game, it's all about the character. It's about the tank. It's about the weapons that they're using. It's about how fun. So what would be another game? Fortnite might be something similar to this. Although I think I know. Well, it's about the characters and what you're doing, right? You're running around trying to beat the other team up, and that's a lot of what this game looks like it's going to be doing. And then what they've done is they've broken it down into different things that you might encounter, different environmental things like equipment that you might find, stations that might be set up with machine guns that are already there. Looks like this thing pulls up as a barricade, so maybe you find a certain thing in the game that lets you unlock this, and then you can hide behind it. Let's see what else. There's some automatic gun stations, and then they finally get into the maps. So then they show you what each one of the worlds might be like, right? So this is the world underneath the bridge. There's 2 pictures for the bridge. This is the underground, which if you're from England, the underground means the subway system, right? So there you can see the subway system. More subway system. Then they have a dome, so like a stadium, like an open world stadium. And then they have a terminal, so like what might be a I guess it's airplane. And then a couple of pictures for that. Then they have the chapel. And so basically this game is showing you with its artwork why it's going to be fun, what the graphics are going to look like, how that world is actually going to be, because you can sit there and go post-apocalyptic world, but that can mean a lot of different things. This then shows that there is some kind of society that still sort of exists. It hasn't quite gone completely apocalyptic, but it's post-apocalyptic, right? So they've already had their apocalypse. Maybe society's trying to settle down, and that's why you have these people fighting each other, because they're still trying to fight over control of whatever resources are left, or blah blah blah. And then you can give the people their rules, what they're going to be doing. And this one again sells it sort of like Molasses did with the artwork, right? Let's get back to the top. Let's get out of this one. Let's go to another one. Wasteland 2. Okay, so this is more or less what I would expect from most of us. Something that would be mostly wordy, because we're still dealing with Word, and maybe our art people are not going to be as great as we want our art people to be, at least at where we are now. They do have a couple of pictures of environments, some worlds, some components, but basically they do a good job of breaking up the monotony of the words with graphics, either some kind of like similar repeating graphic like this thing about like the level in the background. And look at what they did. They left a nice negative space for the words, so that the words aren't actually on top of and or difficult to read from the graphics that are in the background. They give you a history, game overview, gameplay, special feature, other players or other components that are going to be in the game, the fact that it's an open world, narrative based, some other thing like I guess they put an extra log line down there at the bottom. Okay, so there's that one. And go back home. And let's see. So that was the last of the examples, professional and otherwise, that I had that were up there. That should give you an idea. I think that the BioShock, as far as like what I want in a game proposal, has most of the elements in there. Molasses Flood and the Dirty Bomb do more of an artistic spit on it, right? They sort of do most of their talking through pictures, right? We all have heard that expression, a picture's worth 1,000 words. But that works because their game is similar to other games, right? BioShock, they couldn't do that because maybe they didn't have everything built when they went in asking for money. Maybe they were focused more on key features for their thing, so they went into words. That's probably the same thing with the Westland thing. It's more about the key features and what they're doing than it is about the way the aesthetics of the game and the way the game looks. From there, so that's the written documentation, right? So you have the game proposal document, which literally breaks down what I'm looking for, why we're doing this, the 3 documents that should come out of this, your risk analysis, your competitive analysis, and your business plan. What each one of those things are. Here's an example of a SWOT. Everybody should do a SWOT. So every member in the team should do a SWOT. Competitive analysis, remember, is going online, looking up companies, figuring out data points, putting those data points into a spreadsheet, and then figuring out what you can about your competitors, about the market. Starting to lose my voice. Talking straight for 3 hours. And then how you might be able to sell your game based on what other games are doing. And then from there, 8 to 10 competitors, 2 per person, relative data points. We did not talk about primary, tertiary, and secondary competitors. I might have another document on that somewhere else. Okay, and let's see. List of different types of data points for the competitive analysis, and then finally writing the document. You need an introduction, you need how the game is going to play, a list of key features that you're going to be doing. Your concept art should be scattered throughout the document, right? On the front page, some type of a logo, maybe a picture of what the world looks like. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, I can't draw, I don't have lots of artistic things. Well, you can very easily go into, let's say, the game that you're playing or the game that you're building, right? There is the world that I'm actually going to be working in. And then from there, what I can do is I can, let's say, take a screenshot. I can take a screenshot of that. And then I can use that. Screenshot would be if you're on a PC, you actually have a button right above your insert button that's called print screen. You can hit a print screen, and then it's going to say, where do you want to save that document? You could save it to your drive, or what I like to do is I like to open it up in Paint. And then I can shape it to whatever size I want, or I can trim the edges off, which in this case would be all this other stuff from here, and then just cut this picture out on its own. And I can even maybe cut the top half of that out, and I could cut the bottom half of this out so I don't have this in my image or that in my image, and then copy and paste that into a Word document. And now you have a picture of your world. Once you figure out what your enemy characters are going to look like, maybe let's say one of my enemy characters is going to be this dude. So I'll do a screenshot right there of this guy. Make sure I can cut this out, make sure I can cut this out, and then I still have him like in a little square. Boom, there's my enemy character, right? Or, wrong mouse. What do we do? Oh, okay, right. Ugh. TV screens and having like 3 different, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 screens in front of me. Lost track of where I was. Okay, let's say like this. That little dragon dude that I had at the beginning of class. Let's blow him up. Let's make him bigger so we don't have a pet dragon anymore. We have this thing. Then we'll light him up really well, and then we'll do a screen capture of that, right? So when we say enemy character, let me slow down my camera. So we could have a screenshot like that. Boom. Make sure, obviously, we don't have like weird stuff going through like what we were seeing there. But there, screenshot. Hit the little keyboard on my key, the screen capture, open that up in Paint, crop this guy out of the picture, remove all the rest of the stuff from Unreal, leave it as a picture. Boom, that goes into, so the art stuff can be actually done fairly easy, but you'd have to go and find the materials that you're going to do, bring those packs into your game, figure out what packs you're going to use and what characters or whatever come out of those packs. But right there. Oh, that's cool. Got kind of like a, I guess this is a fire-breathing dragon. That's kind of interesting. That they would actually do the inside of the mouth. Okay. So the concept art can be done fairly easily, and then team members, that can come from your SWOT analysis, different programs different projects you've worked on, anything that you think would help sell you in the game. Because remember, all this is you going in asking somebody that has more money for money you don't have, so that way you can finish your project. All right. Let's see. We have 15 minutes left. Let us do. Okay, so we got through all the written stuff. When we come back on Wednesday, what we'll do is we'll jump back into Unreal. We'll finish up lighting, and we'll probably start talking 5, which would be the introduction to enemy characters and collision settings and gravity settings, for lack of a better word. So we'll take a look at all that collision settings, and that'll start getting us into code and enemy characters. So we'll finish up with lighting on Wednesday. What I would do between now and next Monday, when we talk about, because the following Monday we'll go back into projects, right? Because we haven't talked about the elevator pitch. We haven't talked about the pitch side of it, right? So we've seen the written document today. We'll talk about pitch next Monday. Wednesday, when I see you next, we'll go back into Unreal. We'll do lighting, and then if we can get into level 5 or lab 5, which is collision settings, gravity settings, and the beginning of enemy characters. So if you're going to break up into your groups, what I would do is go over the information that we've talked about today, figure out where everybody is, try to figure out a SWOT for everybody, right? Sit down and maybe help everybody in your group go, what do you think your strengths are? What do you think your weaknesses are? And then break up. Then you would break up out of your groups and you would assign everybody 2 companies. So maybe as a group you go through and you create a list of 8 or 10 companies that you want to do a competitive analysis on, right? And then you can assign that to people. Hey, you do this company and this company, you do this company and this company, you do this company and this company, and then formulate the data points that you think you're going to need. What age group, what kind of game, what genre they are, when did the games come out, how many people were on the team, anything that you think you can add to your competitive, to your game proposal, so then that way when you get into your pitch, you have selling points, right? You can say, most companies our size can make a game within here. Well, the reason we know this is because this company did it in so many years, this company did it in so many years, this company did it so many years, and we think with the team that we have, we can actually undercut this and do it in a year. So every year we could come out with a new game for you. If the game that we're working on is a hit, you better believe that next year we're going to be ready to drop another game. So if you get us, you're not only getting us, but you're getting any potential projects that might be in the future, right? And you see how I sold that based off of different things that I knew that were happening in the market, based off of my competitive analysis. And why do we think we can do that? Well, because we have a programmer that's worked on so many projects and he can do stuff in this amount of time. We have access to somebody that's got an audio studio. They can do all the voice reporting and all the sound effects, and they can have it in this amount of time. So instead of outsourcing, which is what the smaller companies are doing with their distributors, we do everything in-house. And because we do everything in-house, it gets done faster. So selling point, right? So you're selling the game, but you're selling your abilities, you're selling your skills, and you're selling everything else. Anyways, so elevator pitch. So we'll talk about pitches Monday. So we'll do the elevator pitch and the formal pitch, and that should kind of tie us. That should be the last real lesson over going over material for the game documentation and for your proposal. And we'll continue this pattern. Mondays we'll do game and game proposal until we finish all the material, and Wednesdays we'll continue with our labs. So Wednesday's lab will be finishing lighting and going into lab 5, which is collision settings, and following Monday will be pitch. So if you guys have any questions, that's pretty much the end of class. That's the new material that I have for you today. You're welcome to hang around for probably about 30 minutes to probably till about 3 o'clock. I do have lessons, private lessons at 5 that I need to get to, so I can stay here till about 3:30-ish.
I do have a question.
Okay, go ahead. Otherwise, you guys are free to go.
Related to Unreal Engine or our project, but out of curiosity, how many people people have dropped this class?
I've had several. It depends on the semester. When we were doing this in person, I had a lot. My drop rate was a lot less. Most people were able to use the computers at school, and so that removed that factor for a lot of people. And because of that, more people were able to complete the class. The first semester that this happened, I lost 3/4 of my class when we went from in person to online. 3/4 of the class dropped. And then
I was curious because I thought we had like, I think it was 16 or 18 the first day because that's how many seats there were to fill. And then we had like 14 people last week, and now there's only 12 students here.
are you seeing just what's in our Zoom call?
Yeah, so I can't. I'm not actually looking at the student list on Canvas.
We have
but
12 people in the class. That's it right now. Now, so I think Brian Westbrook left like about like an hour ago, but like that's it.
So you have people that will come in and leave the Zoom call, but that's not a register on the class. I could actually go and look in it wouldn't be in Canvas. I would actually have to go to.
I can still see Ivan in the.
Yeah, that's it. We have to ask Ivan to rejoin our Discord. I think he left it by accident.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, you were saying, Professor.
Yeah, no, yeah, I've had it. I've had all sorts of things. The second time I taught this online, I had more students make it because they realized that it was going to be an online class at that point. And so most people, once they found out the computer requirements, I think I lost about 1/4 of my class. But you're also talking about, I also had more students at that point. I think prior to COVID, I could teach up to 24 students in a class. Now with COVID, I can only teach, I think, 18 or 16 students in a class, so that the whole social distancing thing works. But yeah, so it's all over the place. I've experienced more than half to less than 1/4 leave. But yeah, most people get into it thinking, oh, this is going to be fun. I love playing video games, and they don't realize the amount of work it is. And then the other thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is that this is also a business. So as at HCC, we're doing what's called workforce training, which is why instead of just sitting there like now, you will have other classes that won't touch on the business stuff as much, right? But I think it's an important thing, and I was told this needs to be part of this class. I was given a syllabus from the way other people teach this class and then changed it to fit. But it was definitely, they need to make a game, they need to make, and they need to understand how the industry works. So those are the two big things. Give them a real world feeling of how games work and how it would work, and then all the other stuff that goes along with making a game. Like, for example, you think of what it goes into making a movie, right? You need a script, you need actors, you need the director, you need lights, you need equipment, you need film, you need editors, you need promoters, you need artists, you need people that are going to make your posters, you need people that are going to make the costumes, people that are, if you have fight scenes, you have fight scene coordinators. If you have guns, you have what are called gun masters that work on the film set with you, to make sure that nothing happens like what happened in the filming of The Crow, right? Where homeboy shot himself with a real gun because the prop master or the gun master failed somewhere, and so he was killed. Yeah, well,
Yeah, that was the prop master who actually fired the gun because he was so sure that he did it right, and woof, that
Yeah.
must have hurt.
Yeah, no, well, he's probably not working in Hollywood, not after
He
something
still
like that.
is.
Does he?
I know personally that he still does.
Really?
Yeah.
So maybe he blamed it on.
It's a giant mistake in his career, but like, it wasn't like intentional murder. It was just, he went to jail for like 3 years for manslaughter, but like, he's back in the business.
Well, yeah, he better have a very safe track record after that, or he's not going to be hired. But yeah, I mean, I would feel less safe hiring him knowing that he was the guy that worked on that movie than I would finding maybe somebody else who has a much better track record on something like that. but yeah, so all those things need to be coordinated, all those things need to be thought of, all those locations need to be scouted, all the props need to be made, found, gathered, put into the environment, and then everything has to be lit well. Then the actors need to know what they're going to do, and so that's what we're doing, except we're doing it with stuff inside of a computer, right? We have lighting, we have world building, we have characters. We're basically building a movie that people can play, and we need to sell it like such, right? So why is this movie going to be awesome? Who are the actors? You know, if you think about movies, it's who the actors are, who worked on the film. That's why that's so important, right? And based on their previous performances or their previous work, you can guess that this movie's going to make money or it's not going to make money because it has A-list actor in it. It has A-list director in it. A-list whatever. So you put so many people in, like Mars Attacks. I watched Mars Attacks the other day because it was on Netflix and it was free. And terrible movie. But it had so many A-list actors. It was ridiculous. And that's why everybody went to go see it when it came out, because everybody was in it. It was one of those Hollywood movies that are made by Hollywood, and it's like everybody found out about it, and so everyone's like, hey, I want a cameo role in that. And sure enough, dude, Tom Jones, Martin Short, Jack Nicholson, Pierce Bronson. I mean, there was like tons of A-list people that were in that movie. And that's what made the movie sell. But, you know, they still had to have a script. They still had to have somebody break down the script. They still had to get schedules. They probably had a huge HR nightmare with trying to get everybody's schedules for that. Because all these A-list actors, oh, I'm doing this. I'm only available this day or this day. But yeah, so that's what we're doing with the documentation. But anyways, any other questions?
Not a question for you, but we just need Ivan to rejoin our Discord. I think he may have accidentally left. I said that before. I don't know if you heard me.
Write him a message in here. Send him a personal whatever.
I have already.
Oh, okay. Well, then try to write him also one in Canvas, and then give him a link to it
that
there.
doesn't work. I think we're just gonna move on.
Well, if he's still part of the class, now this is the thing, is you can't drop people from your group. You can pretend like they're there, and you may or may not assign things to them based on how many times that they show up. And if that's becoming a problem, you're going to need to let me know, because I will need to know the dynamics of what's going on in the group. Hey, so-and-so is doing their work, so-and-so is not doing their work, and I would normally expect that from my group leaders, right? And you wouldn't say that in class. You might send me a private message through Canvas and say, hey, I'm team leader for group 1, and so-and-so and so-and-so hasn't been showing up for meetings, and they're not doing their work. Please advise. And then I'll take it, I'll take it from there.
Yeah, our Discord is kind of like our way of getting everything together. So like.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
Being involved in our Discord is critical.
Correct. Yeah, and that was the first thing that you guys did when you broke up into groups, was figure out your comms, how you were going to communicate information across each other. But yeah, if a group member is becoming an issue, don't make the problem worse. Just notify me. Let me know, hey, so-and-so is not showing up. These are the different times I've tried to contact with them. This is how I've tried to communicate with them, and they're not making any communication. So if I see that they're not also communicating back with me, then we can say, okay, this person may have dropped.
Right.
Or if I don't see them in, what's that other platform that we use? Blackboard or something like that. That's not Canvas. Where we go hccs.edu and go in that way. Eagle, something like that. I forget what it's on. I have everything saved as, once I have a link, I just save the link and I just click into that to go in. So I can't remember what it's called. I think it's called Blackboard or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, I see that Ivan's on. He may not be he might be having issues, or he might just.
He may have stepped away. He may be making a sandwich or in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Any other questions? Okay. So if I have no further questions, I'm going to assume that everybody's good, and we'll see you in a little over a day for Wednesday's class, and we'll get back into Unreal and finish Labs 4 and start Lab 5. So no further questions from anybody, right?
Nope.
Okay, cool. I'm going to go ahead and
Any questions?
no? Yeah. I would go back and watch the videos, try to get as close as you can on the labs. Do that individually for yourself, so then that way you can be more help in your groups, because you'll see more things, have experienced more things, and then break up in your groups between now and next Monday and try to hash out some of the things that we talked about.
Yeah,
In
like about the studios, right? Some developing companies, like the publishing companies, right?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, do research.
Then
Yeah,
we
start finding
talk
research.
about PlayStation Studios, but they're like, no, they're trying to become bigger because they're getting other studios to join their studios.
Well, I can tell you this. I mean, like with the game that I worked on with the Jason David Frank project, it was my studio, which is GR Entertainment or Green Room Records, was labeled as one of the, like when you start playing a game and you see the Nintendo logo splash, and then you'll see another logo splash, then you'll see another logo splash, and then you might see 3 or 4 smaller logos on the same screen. So that's where my company would have come in. My audio company would have been one of those smaller logos on that 3rd or 4th screen. So it just depends on your strengths and weaknesses, and your opportunities as far as where you fit on something like that. You could be somebody that's a very good promoter and is able to gather a lot of people together and put them on a project, and that might be your strength, and so you might go that way. Me personally, I don't like, as much as I talk during class, I'm not a very social person, right? If you met me on a street corner, I'd rather walk by you than try to be your friend, because I'm too busy. I'm just not interested in what other people are interested in. I don't follow sports. I don't give a rat's ass about cars or automotives. My thing is audio engineering and making creative and teaching. And if you're not in that genre or in that world, I'd rather not deal with you. And I forget why I went on this tangent. But yeah, because you said pulling people together to try to create a bigger studio. Yeah, that would be something I could see myself doing, but definitely not trying to go out there and be a promoter and trying to sell the game like that. I'd probably TO to somebody else.
No,
So
I think that's what PlayStation Studios is doing, because they're gathering other companies. They already
well,
got
that's
Insomniac, they already have Sucker Punch.
well. I mean,
And
if you think about it, that's what bigger companies do. Once you've reached a big point, I mean, what is YouTube without, what is it, Facebook and Instagram and
no, not
YouTube?
Google. It's Google that got
Okay,
that.
but you see what I'm saying, right?
Mhm.
There are other companies, there are startups that start up that essentially, in the world that we live in, that's almost sort of what your goal, almost an aspiration, is to be bought up by a bigger company so you get your big payout, right? So you start a company, you build it up to a certain point, you do something significant with it, and then they want to buy you out for the name, right? So I've seen this happen with other manufacturers like watches. Watches, there was hundreds of different watch companies up until about the 1970s, and then all of a sudden they started getting bought up by larger conglomerates. So Citizen Watch ended up buying, God, I think about 20 or 30 smaller watch companies. They still make them, but they don't compete with the same market. They basically bought up their competition. Everybody that was in their price point for making watches. And the same thing will happen with cars, the same thing will happen with newspapers, the same thing was happening with media companies. You look at Disney, they're buying up Marvel, they're buying up Pixar, they're buying up
Star Wars.
Star Wars franchise, Lucas, right? So you will have larger companies that do that, and some of these other, like Marvel was a big company, Star Wars was a big giant franchise, and even they had a payday because there was somebody bigger than them that wanted. I think Star Wars. I think what was it? Phantom Menace, when the homeboy said, Qui-Gon said, "There's always a bigger fish." um, so that's almost the thing. But you know, you're going. The idea here is that we're going in asking for money, looking for funding for our first project. Because you gotta be born before you can be bought out. You gotta start your company before you can be bought out. And they all start somewhere. Cool. Any other questions?
Nope. Thanks, Supervisor.
Yep, no problem. You guys are free to go if you want. If you do have a question, you're welcome to hang around for a bit longer. I can be here till 3:30 if you need.
Thanks.
Yep, no problem.
Any suggestions or description that I need to know more about gaming? Because I have a vast, how can I say it, insight that I want to know about.
Well, I think the best thing to do would be to start working on your labs, so then that way you have some hands-on work, right? You can say, I've built a level, or I've made a house, or I've made structures, made a forest, I've made a cave, and that sort of will help you with that. And then from there, do the research, do the SWOT analysis, which is personal research, and then do the competitive analysis, which would be the at-large, what other companies and other games are doing. And with that, you'll have a lot more information, and you'll know what to put into your game, or what's going to be a big hit or what's not. I mean, what if all of a sudden tomorrow some guy comes out with a three-wheel design for cars, and everybody wants that now. And now all of a sudden the market has to change for that. And if you were doing research on that company, you would have known maybe that was coming up, and maybe you would have done some investing in that company. And all that comes from knowing what's out there, from doing research, from I try to do on average a week, maybe an hour to 2 hours worth of research, where I'll just go online and I'll look up new games. What's the new game? What companies are out there? Are there any new companies that are out there? All that sort of stuff, because I want to be, I have to do it for work, but, and I do it for all sorts of companies. I will do it for anything that I'm interested in. I might do it in film, so I might do an hour's worth of research on new cameras. Then I might do an hour's worth of research on new audio equipment. Then I might do an hour's worth of research on an artist.
Because there's this big debate about, what Thor looked like in God of War Ragnarok. Everyone was thinking, oh, he may look like a Hemsworth. And they're like, oh man, he looked like someone who has eaten like 5 or 6 patty melts.
Right. So that's the thing is if you know what people are talking about, you won't be surprised, and you'll be able to somewhat predict what might happen in the market, which would then give you an advantage, right? So that would be those threats and opportunities, where it might be a threat for other people because they didn't. For example, the toilet paper roll thing that happened in 2019, right? Where if you didn't know that everybody was in a panic, all of a sudden you wake up a week later, you go to the store and you find that there's no toilet paper. You didn't do your research. You didn't know that there was some kind of pandemic. You weren't watching the news. You were, you weren't exactly. So what ended up happening to you? Where me, because I pay attention to the world and I know what's happening in it, knew a month ahead. I knew when the stuff was happening in Wuhan that there was going to be problems with the grocery store at some point, because people were going to freak out, and that at some point we might go under a lockdown. So what did I do? I went and bought food, and I went and bought toilet paper, and I went and bought paper towels and anything else that I needed for the house. And yes, it was surprising when it actually happened, but I wasn't caught with my pants down. You know what I mean? I didn't have to go stand in. I did 1 or 2 long lines because my mom was home and somebody else came home at the same time, so I had more people that I needed to feed.
I could buy gas at that time. I could buy gas like crazy.
Yeah, well, and that's what I'm saying, is that you need to prepare for things, and if you know what's going to happen in your industry and you know what the trends are in the industry, then you could do a much better job with your next project. Or you can go, hey, we know the technology that they used in this project because I've been doing research on it. I want to be able to use it in my next project. So then that way we can create something similar to what they did, but a little bit different. And maybe we can set ourselves apart from what they did because we're going to introduce the same technology, but a little bit differently. And research will let you know how they were making it, what products they were using, how long it took them to come up with the idea. Like a big thing was like when the Matrix movie came out, and they did that 3D spin in real time where they caught her and she's jumping into the air. I did research. I did research on that, and I found out exactly how they did that. They did tracks with a camera on there that went at different speeds, and that camera was actually taking multiple pictures as it was on that rail, and they would do the movement, and that camera would whip around that rail so fast that, but it was, oh, right. And then another technique that they did was they set up, let's say, 50 cameras, one right next to the next one, to the next one, to the next one, to the next one. And then they would time all those to take a picture one, like a fraction of a second after the other one. So instead of whipping a camera around on a track, what they did was they would take pictures, and the pictures would go in a series going down whatever, how him doing the backwards thing when he was like trying to avoid the bullet, or her doing the thing where it jumps up in the air or whatever. And so now you go, I wonder why nobody else has used that technique. You know why? It's super expensive. It's super expensive. You need camera track and a camera that can capture in that fast, that high quality, plus movement. Or you need a bajillion smaller cameras that you can somehow tie together so that you can take fraction of a picture, fraction of a picture, fraction of a picture, one after the other.
I just can't wait to see what they're going to do in the fourth one.
I'm sort of, I don't know what to expect with the new one either. I know there's a lot of, I know Keanu's older.
Yeah, he's older. Here's the fun fact about it. The moment that Neo died and Trinity died, the machines plugged them back in.
Yeah, and that's what I would expect.
It plugged them back in. And right now they're in like the 7th version of the Matrix.
They could be in a separate part of the Matrix, just like the train guy was in his own part of the Matrix.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean,
The only problem is that Neo doesn't have a recollection of what happened after the events of the 3rd movie.
We'll see. We'll see. It looks like he did a pretty
In gradual fragments. That's what it is.
right.
The moment he met Trinity, Trinity was like,
Stop! I don't want to know too much. I don't like people spoiling it. No spoilers. That's okay. That's all right. But that's good. I mean, you're passionate about it and you like the storyline, so that means you could probably be the person in your group that might be the most interested in storylines and help them with that part of it.
what's happening in the movie. Me too. I've not seen it myself. But
Correct. I don't think it's out yet. I think all you have are trailers at this point.
yeah.
Okay, cool. So everybody knows what to do. I think everybody's good. Any other further questions before we cut the meeting for today?
No, not exactly. That's all we need.
Okay, very cool. Well, then I will see you guys on Wednesday. We'll do Lab 4 and 5, and then we'll get back on Monday and talk about pitches. All right. You guys have a good one. We'll see you Wednesday.
See you Wednesday, Professor.
Take care.